Hey, Ron,
And I haven't heard from Nicole. If she's
what is
discuss this.
downtown Colorado Inc.?
That's right. Well, and that's.
They're a consulting
I
firm
follow up.
that works
And
within
then
the
I
state,
don't harass it unless like I
That,
feel like I really. need something.
to help small towns
Thank you.
get their DDA, particular DDAs and URAs they focus on.
Yeah.
There are some other districts that they work with also.
You know, it was one of those
And,
where I was like, maybe I should.
they
I've been rolling
basically
far too much.
have a
lately, but I
lot
was like,
of
maybe I should, like try
avenues that they
to
present to
actually
you
show up.
that you can go down to get things done.
What are you looking at?
Thank
Yeah.
you. You know, it's so
And I
funny
had the
because
same thought. I was like.
Miranda knows more about it than I do.
What do
I
they
actually
do?
went to.
I'm sorry?
Italy
What
and
do
I was
they
gonna pull that
do?
same jacket I always
They
wear, the
consult.
long striped one. And I was like,
On
you know,
what?
kids, you don't own
Any
anything
kind of
else. Like,
project you
He
have.
doesn't judge that. Kate does the same thing. So
Your
like.
town.
you should probably wear something else. Every time you see Kate, you're not wearing your jacket. Say,
They give direction on
It was that
how to
was the
get things
moment I was
done.
having. I was like, oh, geez.
Know that
So
I
you're
am a
gonna
person that you
enter
can do
into
that
an
with, and it's
agreement
fine.
with them
I
for
have a
$12,000?
list of all of them. That's what's driving me crazy. is I have
12,000,
the list
I
of the
think.
randomizer
Yeah,
and
to
I
do
have
what for us?
right now.
They outlined it, Kate, did we,
I'm
Scott's
reading it
asking
right
about
now.
the,
DCI
DCI proposal.
It's in the packet.
Yeah, I'm looking at it and it says that services are outlined in Appendix A. But I don't see anything that clearly states what they actually do. Or what they propose to do.
But they had it in the,
Well, they've been here before. A lot of their work is in our master plan. When we were doing the DDA master plan, they came up and brought 3 architects with them and helped us, put the master plan together.
Oh, here, okay.
I was gonna say, it's listed in that services, under services, it goes under through what they will be. And you're right. So another previous email that they had, I can pull up. There in your packet, I believe in July, we talked about this and they sent an email and I can pull that up to remind people. But this was in follow-up to that and they edited the amount. Because remember we talked about it, what was it, 15
Yes,
or something? And so they edited the amount based on conversation. And so it's a little bit less than that. But under services is where they're breaking down what they put. And in the email, I believe that oh, do I not have the email attached in there? I'll read her. Oh, and then here's the engagement timeline. So the background, action planning, scope and planning. Yeah, because I was gonna say, I thought I saw that in all of this. So yeah, it's on page 60 of your packet. If you want to scroll down there, that's where the outline and the proposed timeline, which we're obviously a little bit off from because they said August 31, but we didn't have a meeting between when they sent this and that. But we could still hold to that timeline, I think, pretty generally. Does that help you?
Yeah, it's pretty vague though. Is it, so it is for like a strategic plan?
Yes, because DCI, this is what they do. This is our
Yeah.
grant group. This is who we pay money to be a part of.
what
And
does
so
DCI
they
do?
would love to come here and work with us. And I know that there's a lot of members of the Board of Trustees that want to do that. I need to write something down, but that's where this is. And I'll address it more when we bring the item up. I'll go into that a little bit more.
Okay, thanks.
But that's why if we were to have anybody come for strategic planning, we would want it to be our group like this because they understand TIP and they understand different projects across the state of Colorado, what other DDAs are doing. So this is the group that we would look to. This is not just some consultant or some group. This is downtown Colorado. If that's helpful. Okay.
Hi.
Hi, you got here
Made
just
it,
in the
yeah.
nick of time.
Trying to cook dinner.
It's a nice thing about living in a small town. It's easy
What's
to-
that? Yeah, I know, I just, I got a little late out of work and that just,
Move over and give you some more
Oh,
work
thanks.
for all your papers there.
thank you. Yeah, I'm thinking maybe if we could grab this table.
I was gonna say, what are those big tables?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That wrong?
Because that big one has some of them, not everyone.
Did we look at that?
Yeah, she's officially in Mexico. Yeah,
Really texted you yesterday, but then she yeah, really late. Well, it wasn't that late, just late for me. And she said they had them send the payment, but then they were hoping it was like,
yeah, he was able to get in.
yeah, that's
But
great.
yeah, that was weird.
Yeah.
She was like, all I want is for you to dance with me at their daughter's wedding. Like, understandable.
Understand. I'm glad I didn't, so. That's good for signing.
Yeah.
Already, and that was like something people, so I get that, I think. I'm sure
Mhm.
that- But it's the flight and the.
Kate, are we expecting anyone not to be here?
Catherine Vallon
Oh, okay.
is the only person I've heard from will not be here.
Here's Andrew.
And I believe Barb,
She's online.
oh, is she at mine?
Yeah.
Is trustee Corbin on?
Danielle's online.
Danielle.
Barb and Danielle, can you hear us okay?
Yes,
Is it like muted at all, or does it sound great?
sounds great.
That's all I care about. Look, we fixed it. It's all because of my own person. Well, you're good on my end. You're recording and live streaming, all the things I forgot to do last time.
Okay, we're ready to go. I'm calling to order the September 13th meeting of the Nederland Colorado Downtown Development Authority. We're now in session. Kate, would you please call the roll? At
Ron,
6:02.
Ron Mitchell,
Here?
Steve Roundtree,
Here.
Scott Package,
Over here.
Andrew Dewar,
Here.
Danielle Kraus,
Here,
trustee Corvallin, Barb Hart,
here,
Steve Carell,
Here.
and I believe Catherine Vallon is not going to be on, but I just want to check. Catherine Vallon? All right, thank you all.
Okay. First item of the approval of the August minutes. Kate? Go ahead.
Oh,
Oh, if there's.
Someone want to make a motion?
is there a discussion?
For the.
We'll-
I just had a question. I just glanced at it and I didn't recognize a lot of the names for checks that were paid, and there are a lot compared to just usually 2 or 3. and-
Yes.
So I'm just curious if.
That is the picnic table project for
Oh,
public
okay.
art. So that's why I like doing the check detail like I did this month is then you can also see the coding in there. It gives Rita everything she wants. And because we did have so many checks, this was easy for me to pop out of QuickBooks versus
Yeah.
use our spreadsheet. And so this looks cleaner and it's more in line with what town puts in. So this goes into town's financials with Rita. So yes, all those checks were reimbursements for the picnic table project. And so last month, most of our money was paying out the public art project between the mural and then all those picnic table project individuals that helped out
Okay.
with that.
Great,
So,
yeah.
thank you for asking.
So I was looking at it too. So that was like $14,000 of public art.
No, public art total is at like 15 something. I believe I don't know what the total is for that. I just know where we are at totally, and that includes think about 1,500 in costs that happened right after I ran the last numbers. So, yeah, I think we spent out this month maybe 12, closer to 12 in public art.
That's all within budget though, right?
Oh, yeah. And their budget's 20. And so they're in line, but they are very cognizant of their budget. So that's why they checked it. That's why I have those numbers, because I gave them their detail just to make it at the end there.
So just as a matter of discussion, Ron, when you talk about using a line of credit to pay bills, is this exactly the kind of thing you're talking about?
No, I think we should just make, major bills. For example, we have one coming up for $99,000.
And $14,000 is $12,000. Not that you asked me, but I would say that if it's like been an approved thing and it's at least $10,000, not to set a threshold here off the top of the head, but something, like the Ace Hardware, the CenturyLink bill, definitely not. But if there's some approved amount that's, of substance for a banker, it would say, it's 10,000 or 50,000 or 80,000 or 150,000 to be paid back in the next day. Not to segue into a whole nother topic, but like, doesn't make sense for the cable bill or the phone bill. It makes sense for capital projects.
And $10,000 is typically a good threshold that people will hold, have to do certain things. So if that was something, but so that's where the majority of our money was going this month. In August and September, like I've said before, are always when we're really paying off our projects if we are staying on top of them throughout the year, because there was a big bill for merge, right? So you all are spending. The only thing, and this kind of segues into our budget, we'll see it is, special event and traffic funding. That hasn't spent down yet because we'd asked for reimbursement and we haven't been getting those yet, but I've been starting to pound people a little bit more now that all the events are coming to completion, like Ned Gravel and everything. Now that those have happened, they can get those on there. But so that's why you're seeing so much this month in August.
Sure, bringing it up, Steve. I was wondering too.
Yeah, one other question, just as a specific, I was just curious what American Ramp Company, I guess it is.
Pump Track, that is who is helping get the designs together for Pump Track.
For the pump track, okay,
It's a 2-payment contract, so this is the first half.
okay. Thanks, yeah.
And since we're talking about consent, I'll bring your attention to the revised minutes. I highlighted in your packet so you see what I changed, and that's just at the request of the bank, highlighting what accounts we have. So I referenced the sunflower or
Sorry, Kate, what do you, the
revised minutes.
Okay.
So if you want to click on that for July. So it's highlighted and it says, that those officers for the citywide operating and the TIF account, and then for the line of credit with Sunflower, they asked that be specifically on there. And then each of the officers and myself will sign that document and then it'll go to the bank. So after this meeting, if this is approved, it'll be sitting at town hall, everybody can come sign, and then it'll go to the bank. That works for everybody. But just since we're talking about it, call you out as to why that's in there and that highlighted change.
So those documents have been at town hall for about a month. Have you signed?
I signed it, but I said I wasn't gonna put my social security.
Until it was time to go.
document that's sitting on a counter at town hall.
No.
And now we have what we need to have it go there.
Yeah.
What's the?
So everybody else is filling in, so I can go get them. And give it
Yep,
to
after
Steve
this is, everybody
as soon as you
signs
sign
this.
off.
hopefully they didn't just leave them on the counter the whole time.
When I walked in, they were sitting on the counter. And so I put all of my not too personal information on them and said I would fill out the rest when they were gonna be in a secure spot.
And I'll let you know when all that is and we'll sign that and get it down to the bank.
Can I have a motion to approve the warrants?
We could just motion to approve consent. We don't have to do it individually unless you want to.
No, I don't want to do it individually.
All right.
So is the chair will entertain a motion to approve the warrants. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, on to the next one, 3.2. Approve the minutes. Any additions or corrections? Anyone wants?
So with that, you approved all of consent. So
Yes.
everybody
Everybody approve the consent?
in the minutes or
So you're moving on to 4.
Okay, public comment
public comment on non-agenda.
on non-agenda items. Is there anyone online?
So you have Liz McGuffey online. Hi, Liz.
Hello.
She's probably here to talk about her grant. but
I'm sure. Do you have a
welcome to
public
talk
comment
about
on
anything else.
non-agenda items? Or are you
I'm-
here?
I am here to present, and I believe I'm the next agenda item from here.
I think you switched it,
Yeah.
right? So we're actually gonna, Liz, we're gonna do discussion before action.
So you could probably for a little bit and come back maybe in about a half hour.
Say that again, I jumped in and out.
Maybe come back to, we're gonna be doing something else first. We're doing discussion and then action. And so if
Okay.
you want to pop back in a half hour, I think, then or you can listen to the whole meeting, just letting you know it'll probably be at least another half hour before we get there.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. And I'm gonna start cooking. So if for some reason it looks like I fell off and you feel like it's getting close, if you just so happen to have my cell phone number on your phone, Miranda. I think you do. Anyway, I'll go away and come back in 30 minutes, but if it needs to be sooner, just ping me.
All right, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else that wishes to speak on non-agenda items?
That's fine.
Not hearing any, we'll move on to discussion items. The first one is the work session follow-up. Okay.
All right. So, so today we have our follow-up from our work session. And you saw the spreadsheet that I sent out where Nicole collated everything for us. After the work session on goal prioritizations, the survey was sent out to the board. The survey was included as well as all the responses in the packet. The following was found from the survey. That the top 5 are to create a comprehensive plan for parking, evaluate code changes for the housing study, finish the existing projects, finish phase 1 of wayfinding, create a sanitation district for kind of where things were coming out. And then you see some other data there from how it was correlated, but I just kind of copied it into the AIM. So it was a little bit easier because I know it was hard in the Excel to kind of to read some of the script. So tonight, I just want to know how you're feeling about these priorities as they're listed here, and is everybody's on board with this to inform our 2024 budget?
I was a little confused by it on the theme of reading through. I wasn't sure what it is that we agree on prioritization. Is that the very top section in that box?
That's the way that I read it from Nicole, and that's what I asked for clarification on. And so I do take that as the top 5. And then I put the other data in there. I know that's confusing, but I also just felt it was important because of the way that she pulled it over there. But the top 5 are listed in that top stack. If that's helpful, Steve.
It is, but it's still like the presentation just confuses me. Like I see the 1 through 5, create a comprehensive plan for parking, evaluate code changes for the housing study and such. But then what are the other things below that? There's like number 1, develop an evaluation system for funding requests. 2, finish work in progress. 3, replace.
So those were all the different things that we talked about. So that's why with that spreadsheet, she pulled them all over, and I agree, it was kind of clunky. That's why I reached out for a little bit of feedback, and all I got was that those 5 are the 5. So I can dig in more if that's helpful to find out about some of those, but I do think that we ended up where we got the 5 that we were looking for. It's just, is everybody on board with this final 5 list? This is where you ranked them, but you all have to decide that this is where what you're feeling.
I mean, I've got a comment on that. I guess
Sure.
on item number 2, I'm not questioning the order of this or what we land
Yeah.
on. But I guess as we look at the goal prioritization to the budget. Like the number 2 thing here was talking about the housing study. And I know in other conversations, things have come up about employee housing, affordable housing, kind of the whole housing conversation. And in our current budget, I might be missing something, but I don't think we have any money set aside in our budget to give us any leeway this year to support or study or do anything related to anything housing in Nederland. So if that's our number 2 priority, that feels like maybe something before we finalize the budget that we should address.
So I think we might have an error. So in looking at the spreadsheet, the way what's posted there is everyone's specific comment in that final question that you're given. I think if we could, I think we just have to go in and quickly like assign numbers to these to figure out what's priority 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm not sure that what you pulled is quite right.
Did I
Just
ask
down. Did she say, I mean, because that first bullet point is tied to someone's very specific comment. So I think
So
we've
this
got
is
a
everybody's, this is,
slight issue, and
Okay.
if you give me just a few
Okay.
moments, I could probably.
I agree with Steve. I don't think we should have anything in the budget that has anything to do with housing.
Well, or is it really the time to be responsive to that? Because we did talk about a lot of things that were in the queue that over the next year we may be talking about, which is what prompted some of the project feasibility and professional studies, having that as part of the budget conversation. But that's why I was asking Miranda, is that even something appropriate for us at this time? Because they're still waiting for information. But we rank it, but like you're saying, but we're ranking it as something people care about, whether we, but maybe we're not as much
Maybe
as
we're
we.
not. We can just like have a little conversation, but give me like 5 minutes.
If you want to move, we move.
and I guess my perspective on that, if I
Yeah.
can just follow up on that, like, and maybe when we get this filtered in a little bit better, my concern would be that we're creating a budget and then things that we don't set any money aside from the budget become an opportunity for us to do something. And then for the next 11 months, we'll come to a meeting and everyone will say, well, we didn't budget for that. We shouldn't do it. We didn't budget for that. We shouldn't do it. And I think we're in a spot where the amount of money that's coming in is going to come in. And then we have projects and we typically aren't spending all of the money from the projects, or it's not happening as fast. And for me, that starts to be the challenge. We need to not have barriers that keep us from being able to do things that are DDA appropriate items because we didn't set aside money in the budget.
Well, we can change the budget. Meaning you can amend the budget.
Okay, so I'm just
All
gonna
right.
say this to you all out loud.
Thank you, and I'm gonna write it down.
So your top 2 tied goal is the create the summer concert series
Okay.
and the finish phase 1 of wayfinding. Those are tied.
Okay.
The next one is to evaluate impacts of code changes on the housing study in the CBD. So it's still,
So it's 3, not 2.
it's 3. And then number 4 is to finish the work in progress. Wrap up the Big Springs pedestrian bridge. Then you go to another tie, provide loans in addition to grants as a way to grow revenue for the DDA, and create a sanitation district in the downtown. Then you have another tie, create a comprehensive plan for parking and traffic control, and replace crusher sidewalks with concrete sidewalks. Then you have change code to prevent empty buildings from sitting. The next one is to set aside time for the DDA to contribute to the comp plan and CBD sub-area plan. And the one that scored the lowest is to collect existing data and identify gaps with businesses and residents for the Riverwalk. Everyone get that?
Yeah. So I think my comment on the housing is still pretty consistent, right? It was looking like it was our second priority, it's our third priority. And honestly, we have money in there for wayfinding. It just feels like if there's things that are gonna happen in that realm and we say that's our number 2 priority and we haven't put any funds in the budget, then it's not our number 2 priority. That's my perspective.
And, yeah, and it could be a relatively small amount of money, I suppose, if we're just evaluating the code changes. Like, we're not-
Like we did for
Well-
Riverwalk and other things, you all just plugged in a number. And so that you could have the opportunity to start working on it.
Well, I actually think I can narrow this down a little bit because I basically am trying to take calculations by how people ranked it. But then you have another factor is like how many people ranked it. So divided by,
Thank you,
Because-
Miranda, for being awesome right now. We really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
By housing coming up 2 or 3 in this group, it just.
So what authority do we have to be evaluating a housing study as a DDA? 0?
No. Anybody could evaluate the study. There's nothing, it's a public document.
What is our purpose in evaluating the study? To make a recommendation to town?
My perspective would be that if there's somebody who's going to do something that needs some encouragement, help get something to happen that would
But
happen.
it's at least we're
It's a
taking-
positive for them.
Okay, so those were the,
That's-
I'm not surprised.
That's, you know, I mean, I think we're in our working session. We were talking a lot about parking and parking and parking,
Mm-hmm.
and you pivoted and said employee housing.
Mhm.
And so that's what I felt like was a really good outcome from our working session. And then when I look at this, everybody ranked it pretty high, but we don't have, but then we're saying we're not gonna do anything or anything in that realm. And that feels like a gap in our like working session to budget to just loop back. So I felt like it was worth having some dialogue for that.
No, it is worth the dialogue. It feels to me though, we've gone from a brainstorming session to a commitment without a lot of diligence and study in the middle.
I'm not saying that we spend any money on it. What I'm saying is, if this is our number 2 or number 3 priority, depending on how we look at this, what I don't want to do is for the next 11 months or the next 12
So we
months,
can't do it.
say we can't do anything because we didn't set money aside. And then somebody looks at our prioritization and they're like, well, this is number 3 on your prioritization list, but you're saying you didn't set money aside. Doesn't seem like you were very diligent. Doesn't seem like you
So let me ask the
followed
question.
your plan.
Steve, is it possible that we can help evaluate and maybe provide recommendations and give some thought to without actually having to spend money?
I mean, yeah, I think everyone can. Here, what my argument is the housing study is done in 3 months from now. Like, why would you make, because I'm not really sure why this would be a financial priority in 2024 when the goal itself is to work on code changes in the housing study and that's already gonna be done.
Evaluate,
I
right?
think that's
That's-
way out of the realm. Frankly, I agree with Steve. Why are we, I don't know where a housing got into our realm.
Well, can I just speak for a
Workforce.
second?
Sure.
Yeah, workforce. I think consistently,
It's a-
I have heard
Yeah.
from all of the business owners throughout town that, you know, affordable housing for their employees is like a constraint on operations, day-to-day operations. And so through the lens of, business, you know, the central business district and the owners of businesses within the central business district, how, you know, any code changes will affect, you know, in a good way or in a bad way, affordable housing for their workers. I think that's the only goal there is to say, you know, if, there were code changes that, you know, made it harder or easier for affordable housing for employees, then, you know, just, I think that's the only giant,
Well,
you know,
then
aha there.
are you saying, Andrew, that we should form a committee to study the code? Make a recommendation based on the requests of the businesses that have problems finding housing for their employees? Is that?
I mean, that seems like you know, the next logical step is that
I mean, this is one of the things.
kind of an
that DCI
advisory,
does.
an advisory committee, okay, and then that
This
leads
is-
into, the DCI discussion, so I don't want to waste too much time on this, but I think I can remember this because I wrote it on the sticky tag that got put on the board. So I'll just take ownership of that, which is that if there are going to be code changes to housing within Nederland, the town of Ned, the central business district, I would like to understand what impact that's going to have on workforce housing.
Well, code changes would make a huge difference in workforce housing.
Right, but I would just like, this was this, I'll own this because I wrote it. And what I was thinking of is like, how is this going to affect, are there gonna be things that happen that as a result of code changes that price out employee housing? Because we don't have a voice for the businesses. So this, that was the lens that I was thinking of when I wrote this sticky, is that we should at least, be aware of what's going on.
We are supposed to be the voice of the business.
Right, so anyways, that's, I wrote that on the sticky. I put it up there because I wanted to know what impact, any code changes would have on affordable housing for employees in town.
Here's what I would say is based on the recommendations already coming forward, only positive. So what we're saying is like you're deed restricted or you've got some sort of component that makes it affordable. We're letting you potentially cut your setbacks down to next to nothing. And so a part of me would just recommend that you just kind of let the board and the Bohannon Houston and the internal staff team just keep running it with that reassurance that we can offer to you that we are considering the businesses in our decision. And anything you do should just be advisory in nature and not taking this project on because we already have the team built who's doing the work.
Okay.
Would be a
That
thought.
sounds realistic.
Yes.
So
Thanks.
answer Steve's question. Do we put any money in the budget for attempting to
Does
do code
town
change?
need any help with this?
No. No, because again, we'll have all the code changes adopted. It's just a matter of now implementing them.
So
They
this is,
have to be adopted by December, no matter what.
I mean, let me rephrase that, like just in a total hypothetical situation. Might there be enforcement, actions or other, consequences of code changes that, the DDA was able to offer to people who were offering quote unquote, whatever is, affordable housing or housing for, employees. That's a whole nother thing, but where, a grant, like maybe that's, I know we're taking this 2 or 3 steps down in the future, but to just carry that thought through is like, if there was someone who said, I've been renting to these people for the last 10 years, they work at a local business every year. These code changes have come into effect. Now I have to do X, Y, Z to my property to be able to rent it, or do we want to, be able to offer any, as long, and again, we're not, I think, this is getting pretty abstract as far as, the
Yeah, I guess there
My
are
reason for bringing it up was that we called it out as a really high priority
yeah,
and it's not in our budget.
yeah.
And in my mind, that's a gap. There's a big disconnect there. If it's really important, but it's not in our budget, and we can move on from that.
I guess what I would argue, sorry, with just super fast, is that there's nothing prohibitive in the code recommendations. If anything, we're adding more leniency to be able to build workforce and alternative and affordable housing. We're adding in all the ability to do that and to do that well. And so no one should be coming forward saying, well, these codes you just did are more restrictive to me and now I need help. It should be the exact opposite conversation of, well, cool, now I can build 5 tiny homes on my parcel because you changed the code to allow me to do that.
Because where the DDA, and this is part of what we put into it, not to belabor, where we could be helpful is those infrastructure pieces for projects that are in the district. So if somebody
interest
was
of time.
coming, what,
I'd like to move on.
Danielle has her hand raised up.
Okay, Danielle, please go ahead.
Thank you. To Steve's question, I think time is money, and if this is a priority, which it seems like, but also something that we want to be learning about, is we continually set aside time to be watching what's going on, educating ourselves currently with what's going on, and go from there. And if we run into a situation where we would like to help financially, in the past, the DDA has amended the budget, and potentially we could do that. That way we don't have to agree to any numbers right now, but we do agree to putting time into it during our meetings and continue on with what we're doing with the current budget we have. Thank you.
Any other?
Yeah, I would like to comment that if there's something in here, we do get interested in certain topics that come up, okay? This is a good example of one, and it sounds good to us, and we know it's important, and we know it's important to businesses. But if we can't possibly imagine what it would take resource-wise or money-wise or budget-wise, if we can't really pin down some decent estimate of what it's gonna cost to do what we think we want to do, then we shouldn't be putting it in the budget with a number. Unless we really think that it's going to cost some money, we know how to get them, even if it's just partial progress on a project. So as a guideline, right?
Any other comments? We do need to move on.
I do want to note that Catherine Ballin is online. She's been online for most of this, but I just
Okay,
wanted to. let
Catherine,
everyone
do you
know.
have any comments? I don't know if you heard.
Yeah, and she might not be in the position to answer, she said, but
Okay.
she's on.
All right, the project evaluation criteria. What's the next item? As a discussion.
But I don't think you landed on your goals yet.
Okay,
Did you?
oh, we did.
I don't know how, are you just doing your first two?
Well, we can do the other. What?
So some of this could, it was mentioned for the budget conversation. So if everybody, now that Miranda helped us get these top 9 and we've kind of got our top 5, if everyone's all right with those, we can just move on and then let that inform our budget and come back to these items.
See,
Leave them in order, say that we're good with them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
could you read them
that
out
would be
loud just
my-
one more time?
I-
Please, thanks.
Just one more time. I'm just gonna read them out loud one
Yeah.
more time.
Thank you.
I'll go quick. So the first two are tied. It's finish phase 1 of wayfinding
Yep.
and create a summer concert series. Make sure I didn't get off here because I changed things. Number 2 would be evaluate impacts of code changes from a housing study in the CBD. Then we have finish work in progress, which is the murals, detail the rest of Big Springs pedestrian bridge. Then we have another tie, which is provide loans in addition to grants as a way to grow the revenue, as well as create a sanitation district.
So that's the top 5.
Do you want me to keep going?
What was the 5th one? I'm sorry, the sanitation.
create the
district.
sanitation
Okay,
district.
Maybe the next
I
one, a couple.
I can keep
Yeah,
going. So the next one would be create a comprehensive plan for parking and traffic control. That's tied with replace crusher sidewalks to concrete sidewalks. Then you go to change code to prevent empty buildings from sitting. Then to set aside NDDA time to contribute to the comp plan. And then the last one is collect data to identify gaps in businesses and residents for the Riverwalk. Did I match what I said?
Yes.
earlier? Great.
Project.
Thank you.
All right.
So I think this is for this part, not budget. What confuses me is that Riverwalk is something that's technically in process and a current project. Yet it's also ranked down there. So that's something that we'll need to discuss during budget, how you feel about that, but I just want to bring that to you.
Yeah, it's like the same thing in the other direction.
Yes,
right? It's
exactly.
a gap in this
So
direction.
did we get there because it's already on our list and we just presume we're gonna do it, so we didn't put emphasis on it? Or do people don't care? No.
I mean, I would just say that it seems that there is some key property owners that we've heard, in my opinion, that I've heard are completely against Riverwalk, and it's kind of like, until that nut is cracked, you know, I don't know how much effort and energy is worth, you know, getting.
Right, but that information should come back to us because I haven't heard anything about it.
Right, okay. So I guess in Ron's doing a good job moving things along. We want to keep talking about item 5.1, goal prioritization.
Or do we want to
Do we
move?
address it in the budget?
I think maybe if you want to, let's address it in the budget, because I think
Yeah.
you've got it. And
Let's move
we've
it.
addressed what some issues we need to look at when we get to there. That was my goal in having this before budget, so.
I just want to make my comment, and that is, I think we need to be very flexible in terms of our priorities, so that we can do things that may surface to be easier and more opportune than some that might not. So, and I also want to stress that I really think we need to be able to amend our budget without having it being a girdle around us that we can't move in. So, particularly in terms of items that come up during the year.
But that's why we have to plan for them now. That's why we
Well,
talk about this.
We
'Cause it
can,
isn't, you know,
our budget is a plan, and statutorily, we can change it pretty easily, so.
well, yes,
to
but there
emphasize.
is a process that has to be gone through. And so that's why we really try to make sure that we have a good plan and a good idea. But that's why you brought in the project feasibility and some of those other ways to be able to move things
Okay.
around because.
We made a commitment to a lady for half an hour. I want to be able to make that commitment, so let's move on to the project evaluation. Okay,
Go ahead.
all right, Scott, you want to?
So the item we're talking about here is page 13 of the package. This is a draft I wrote up. And I feel like we as a group should be guiding our decision-making and our discussion by asking a few diligent questions. Andrew and I have done this a couple of times in discussing performance space, for example. So we have projects that come before us. There might be big infrastructure projects. There might be just a small thing. I want to do a dog festival, a cat festival, a canary festival, whatever it is. We have things that come before us all the time. We don't really have a set of questions, I don't think, that we routinely ask. And I have felt for a long time that we'd be more diligent on some of these things before we commit. Whether it's large amounts of money for a performance space, for example, or for something smaller. This is just a draft, okay? But I think this is a set of questions that we should go through anytime there's something significant that comes before us. Has everybody had a chance to read this?
Not yet.
All right. Andrew, you and I have done this before. This is.
I'm sorry.
Some
Kate,
examples.
it's like I'm trying to listen to.
Sorry,
Scott.
sorry.
Okay.
So examples of what you'd find here would be if somebody wants to propose a piece of infrastructure. Okay, well, what is it really going to be used for? Is it going to generate revenue? Who's going to manage it? Who's going to own it? What does it take to maintain it? If there is revenue, who gets the revenue? Right, us or the town or a third party? So we have all kinds of things that come before us, and I think we should be asking these questions on everything. It doesn't mean that these questions apply to every single project. I'm okay if we go down the list and say, all right, we're asking it, it doesn't make sense for this project, but the next one does, and the next one does.
When I look at this, it feels like it could be flow charted almost, right?
Possibly, yeah.
So there's questions if it's an infrastructure project,
Right.
then you're gonna ask these questions. If it's a service, if it's,
Sure, we
you
could do
know,
that.
to make it so that somebody doesn't need to say, or in our meeting process that we're filtering through and saying, oh, what about this one? Well, what about this one? I mean, if this became a flow chart of assessment, I think that could be a really helpful. When I went through this, it was like, some of it jumps around, and I feel like there's a lot of good content in the questions. Maybe the format of a flow chart gets us to like quicker decision-making tool, consistent and effective.
To have included as part of aims, just put it in there as just a tool for discussion, and if some things don't matter, they don't.
Yeah.
Like,
I think just one thing, Scott, that comes like, first of all, I want to say I wholeheartedly agree with an evaluation metric of some sort.
Yeah.
Okay, and a couple of the, however, potentially pitfalls that maybe is that the first question that you write or ask, is the proposed project really a DDA proposal, or is it more appropriate for town in quotes? I wonder if you could just speak to how you're delineating town and the DDA when kind of holistically the DDA and town are
Right, let me
the
get
same
there.
thing. Yeah.
So I think we generally, as a guideline, we say if something is maintaining existing assets, that's like a street or a sidewalk. That's typically gonna be a town issue. Now, we sometimes take on those projects, or we take on the cost, if not the management of those projects. I've heard it said over and over that we really should make a clear distinction between those two. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't repave a parking lot, or we shouldn't repave a street, or we shouldn't build a parking lot, or whatever it may be, saying that we should just in the cursory manner, we should be clear about who does this work really belong to? If it's something that enhances the ability to do business, or creates a better business community or a better business environment in town, that's DDA material, right? And if it's an infrastructure that's specific to the business district, that's really clearly DDA.
Yeah, I hear you. And I think of the idea that we talked about last meeting, which is additional trash cans and recycling receptacles. Not necessarily, I'm not talking dumpsters and dumpster enclosures, but just basic, more than the one recycling and trash can that I know next to the co-op is the kind of the only one that
Yep.
can come
Sure,
to
yeah.
mind.
Rustic moose.
The rustic moose, okay, rustic moose, sorry. But, to say anything that I'm just gonna talk about this one question, and the challenge is like, for me, thinking of like, God, I would really love to be seeing more trash cans and recycling receptacles throughout town. And ultimately, I'm sure there is a town department, Public Works, that deals with cleaning those and taking the trash out, et cetera. But like, it would be in in my opinion, my personal opinion, it would be in the DDA's benefit to provide and maintain or help town maintain more trash and recycling, small handheld, the soda bottle, the whatever, box throughout town as a whole to keep debris and trash, and also hire and pay someone to go pick up trash. Like,
Okay.
how would you consider that?
All right, so this is just one example.
Right.
That's a great example of us trying to agree and acknowledge who's the real beneficiary of a project like that, right? And does that belong to the town? Does it belong to DDA? And if we say it really has to do with the welfare of the town and the community, but you know what? It's worth it to us to do it anyway, because preponderance of us agrees with Andrew that it'd be even more beneficial to the business district than to the town. I don't necessarily think that's true in this case, but I just think it's a question and a 2-minute discussion we should have at the top of each evaluation. Who does this project really belong to? Who is it really for? And then we move on. I like your idea, Steve, of creating some kind of a flow chart. Is it a service? Is it an event? Is it infrastructure? And then move down from there and put in the appropriate questions. I'll rewrite this in that manner.
I think it maybe helps us walk through and
Sure.
say, hey, we're asking it here, let's ask it here.
Yep.
No, that doesn't apply.
And what you see, the one page that I put together was just a brain dump. It was a draft of all the questions that I in my career have been tasked with asking when we look at capital projects, or we look at product extensions, or we look at expansions or development.
Let me just say thank you, Scott, for taking the time to do this and write this and talk it through.
I would like to make a comment on one of your items, Scott.
Sure.
No matter what the DDA does to improve the downtown district, no matter what the town does, I personally benefit from,
Yeah, okay,
because I own so much property.
okay,
So I kind of want to take issue with the last item that you have.
yeah. I knew you'd have a problem with that.
I have a problem with that, because particularly the statement or the phrase in it where it has the appearance of a conflict of interest. I admit to a conflict or something right here and now, and I've done it in other meetings, that every project affects me not adversely. And the question is then, does it benefit everybody else sufficiently that my conflict of interest is of no concern? But adding a phrase that says, has the appearance of, who's to judge what the appearance is?
Well, it's already subjective and we've already made it subjective. So
Well,
it'll
I
remain
think
subjective.
everything else you have
Yep.
is well taken. But I have an issue with this in terms of,
Then let's find a way to make it work because I don't think we should take it out.
well, I think it needs to be modified something, because if you took it as it is right now, it just appears that if there's an appearance, the appearance is evident. It's not appearance. And that would prevent me from voting and participating.
Okay.
And I look at that as taxation without representation.
Well, let me clarify what my meaning was there. You've already hit on the subject. If something benefits the downtown business district and it benefits businesses equitably or fairly, that doesn't seem like a conflict of interest to me. But if it benefits some individual specifically or a small set of businesses more than it does other ones, then I think we have to look at it. We have to have the conversation.
I think you need to clarify that in terms of a definitional paragraph. Because the way you've written.
I think he just said it out loud. Right? He just said it out loud that maybe we clarify that by, if the appearance would benefit one subset of businesses over the other.
Yeah, I'm not
So
looking.
this,
Let me be clear. I'm not looking to make a rule, a definitive rule that we cement in stone at this moment. That is how we define conflict of interest. That's not my intent. My intent is that we have conversations, because what we do right now is when the topic comes up, we kind of have a blanket statement that says, well, we all benefit because we're all businesses. So there's no conflict of interest. And I don't think that's sufficient.
well, that's not what you stated. If your intent is to have a discussion,
Yeah,
then I think you should state it in those terms as opposed to the way you stated it here.
we should objectively and proactively identify conflicts of interest. Proposal.
I think it's the middle of the second line.
Even the appearance of such.
You don't like that phrase, the appearance of such.
That's right. You should say what the appearance is.
Okay,
Fair enough.
I'll restate it. It'll still be a guideline, but I'll restate it.
Can I make a comment on this? I think number 6 is probably the thing that, at least in the last 4 years that I've been on board, has come up most frequently is events. And I feel like that's going to be, going forward, that's going to be the most common use of this type of assessment. So I think that it would be great if we could develop that further and, in Steve's flow chart area, one thing would be events, and then we have a series of questions. Because for me, that it's pretty much always been events that come to us for funding, other than the town, comes with infrastructure projects. But I feel like we have never had an objective method of assessing the benefits or the positive results of our.
Again, I don't want to eliminate the people who are online. Is there anyone virtually here that would like to comment on this entire subject, items 1 through 12?
I see that like chunk that we want to.
We're
Flush out more.
50 minutes into our meeting, so I'd like to get to the action items. We've made a commitment.
Last, add something about liabilities to the metric, like what liabilities might it present for the DDA or the town. Do you think that'd be a worthy thing to think about?
To add it as a question?
Yeah.
For discussion?
Yeah. Liabilities.
Okay, anything further? I'm assuming that the next 2 items are part of what this discussion's been AIM project evaluation criteria? Or is there something different on this?
No, that, it was just to have it as a discussion item. I'll work with Scott and we can come up with a flow chart, and I like Steve's point, and maybe we break out number 6 and it just becomes part of the aim for when we work with, events or when they come for applications, because those are good questions, and a lot of them do come out in, the information that's given, but it could just be part of what's in the aim. So I think that's nice, but then we can come back as an action item and it can be something that is adopted by the board.
It's kind of had
Okay,
this discussion.
one last thing about it, if I could, just on this number 6, I think it would be really helpful if we had some metrics that we could rely on that would inform us how much money one event gets over another. Because in my mind, that's been a real coin toss. One event comes and we say, oh yeah, let's give them 4,000 or something. Another one comes and we give them 500 or 1,000. And some metrics are a way of assessing, analyzing why we would give one group more than another.
Because I know that there's the thought to also change from going from how you finalized this year that you wanted to do 1,000 per event, and that I know that there is the thought to maybe change that for next year, and that helps us do that. So that there's a way for you all to talk about that. And like I'd like to do more of a fun round type of thing. So you're evaluating everybody at once versus piecemeal, but that's also how that can happen too, and feel not how you necessarily would want it to feel. So that's my thoughts about some of that stuff too.
Great, but thanks, Scott, for that. Ideas there.
I would like to object to that. I'm in favor of a scorecard to some extent, that where some things might be on a continuum, not everything. Some things are yes or no, but some things I think might be where you are strongly feel something involved on the strongly agree to strongly disagree, because it's hard to tell if these are going to come up. I think you need an approach that has maybe one or more than one criteria to rank it. And Scott and I talked about this together a little bit. So. Anybody else that has anything on this in terms of recommending for Scott's next draft? Okay, let's move on to action items.
Really quick before you go, I'm so sorry. I was just looking at it. I was like, there's an error in my spreadsheet. So I just emailed you all your actual goal ranking. I was teasing you. Just wanted to make it fun for you.
Yes.
So your real list is now in your email,
So yeah, so that's so that we have.
Kate, you want to?
which makes a lot more sense now.
The action items.
So what would you like me to do again?
Bring forward the action.
Okay, well, the first action item, you can call that, it's the funding applications. I was trying to see the follow-up from what Miranda said. So is Liz on the line?
She's there.
Ho. I'm trying to figure, I don't know how to blur my background in WebEx, so don't look carefully at my background. Sorry.
Well, I'm gonna kick it off, but I'll kick it to you in a moment. But so tonight you have 3 applications, 2 of which are from Netherlands Farmers Market. One is for Harvest Fest for $1,000, and the other is for $2,100 for traffic and safety. And so I'll let Liz talk about that first, and then I'll talk about Peak Vibes Festival.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for letting the farmers market come to you again. We've been having a terrific year. And so first, I want to start by thanking you all for the support that we had for Party in the Peaks, which was a great success. I think we did we just really had a lovely event. A lot of folks were in town. A little bit as I was listening, one of the things that we would love to be able to do is share a metric with you that gives us the ability to say, and yes, we brought more business to our neighbors, meaning those businesses that are right there around the market. I think we believe that we do, but we don't have a great way to do that. So, but I can say that the Nederland Farmers Market Board would like to be able to help create that kind of metric, which it seems like might be part of the flow chart and what you all are looking for. So thank you very much for your previous support. We do have a request in for the Harvest Festival, which is happening on October 1st. That is our grand finale event. We have a great group of vendors who are already coming. We're very pleased to have a lot of local entrepreneurial folks that are from the Nederland area, as well as some other businesses that you all know and love. And we are requesting $1,000 for that special event. And then in conjunction with that, combined in, may I do these both together, or would you like me to keep them separate, Kate?
Absolutely, you can, whatever makes sense for you to present.
Okay. And just as we did last time, we are also grateful to have DDA support for our nonprofit to help with parking, which we do we now have hired folks to help support smart parking around the farmers market. And so that's $250 for each of the non-festival markets in the second part of our year, and then the additional parking and security for the Harvest Fest, where we are also serving alcohol, and we have folks, we're taking up a little more space, and it's quite a festival and a good time. So that's it is very much the same proposal that you already approved the last time around, just different events and different dates. And I would love to answer any questions. I can't see the flow chart, but if there's anything on there that are Tuster questions, I would love to be able to talk about them with you.
I'd like to ask you a question. With regard to the traffic flow and parking, could you commit one of your flaggers to the intersection of 119 and First to control pedestrian and traffic there? It seems that when you do take up a lot of the parking east of 119, people do park in the RTD lots and the lots to the west of 119. And so the pedestrian traffic through there is heavy, and they never stop for the cars. And it would help a lot if you had a flagger there to coordinate the traffic a little bit more. Can you do that with this grant?
I think we should be able to do that. I think that I saw during the Cat Festival it was a pretty effective, speaking as somebody who drives through there, to have an individual sort of deciding that there was enough pedestrians and we cross them all at once. And that just, you're suggesting that helps mitigate the flow of traffic, basically like from Rollinsville and Eldora through to the canyon, that kind of traffic, right, Ron?
At the Cat Festival, it definitely sped up the traffic.
Okay.
And that's what we're trying to do, is keep
Happy to
traffic.
carry that.
So what it did was prevent the pedestrians from monopolizing the intersection.
Yeah, yep. I am happy to, and you're talking about for Harvest Festival primarily, correct?
Yes,
Got it. Yep, we can do that.
good. That's wonderful. Okay. Does anybody have any questions, either from our virtual viewers or at the table? Scott?
Liz, first question, this farmer's market, 2100 farmer's market, is that for next season or?
No, the way that we understood it, in the way that the funding was broken up, that we were able to come earlier, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we came in June the last time. But it was only, you guys were only looking at proposals for things for the summer. So we then broke out the September and October dates, and we're coming back to you in the fall. People may view summer and fall differently, but that was our understanding of only come with the summer events and then come back for fall events. And that's why we're returning with this second.
That's October. Harvest Fest, the date on Harvest Fest is?
October 1st, and then we have these two other farmers markets in the month of September that we're also requesting for.
So just some background, you did pay for the parking and traffic support for the summer during the last fund round, and that is why she's coming back. We said Harvest Fest and September traffic needs would be a part of this round.
How much should we support with for the summer? specifically for this group.
We're asking you for the same amounts with the exception that the number of farmers markets where we're asking for is a reduced number. So I can go into my computer and pull it, but it's $250 for each of our regular farmers markets, which are happening on Sundays. There were 2 of those in September. And then it's a much more extensive amount of security and parking because of the alcohol that happens for the Harvest Fest on October 1st.
And a bigger turn.
And so you need, and part of this is for parking and traffic control. Who is the vendor on parking and traffic control?
So in the same group from Denver, not Denver, Boulder.
Yeah. I'm going to confess that I'm a board member and I might not be, I would like to be able to get back to that. Ron might know better than me, to be very honest.
The chief guy's a guy named Ben Bowie.
Yeah. Bowie, that's it. But I'm happy to get back on that specific. If that's incorrect, I will certainly send that note back in.
So the proposal specifically says $1,600 is for security and traffic. So the remaining $2,100 is just for those market security, which is how she broke it out in the previous.
We have it in the budget, right?
Your traffic and safety funds, you have a good deal of money, and that's why we pulled for Ned Fest from there, and even with that. So I believe, what did I say here? You have $14,550 available with its safety funding.
You were talking about some things during leak peeping season too.
Mhm.
So if we do that and we do this, we still stay at budget?
We won't spend more than the budget.
That's good to know.
Is, Liz, this is Andrew Jewett. Are you also speaking for Peak Vibes Festival? Or
No.
Okay, sorry.
All right. I've heard the request.
Anybody have any questions?
Any questions from the virtual attendees? Any more from the board? Chair entertains a motion to approve the grants requested. Is there a second?
A second.
It's just 2 grants, correct? It's Harvest Fest and Farmers
Yeah.
Market?
Yeah, 3,100.
Right, 6.1.
Isn't the peak vibes one in there?
It is part of the, and
That's in what we're about to approve, right?
I'm not sure if it was clear about if it was just for the farmer's market grants or if you wanted to.
Sure, both are included in the motion.
Okay, so just the Harvest Fest and the Nederland Farmers Markets, you want to make a motion now for those, and then I'll talk about Peak Vibes Festival? Or do you want to do it all at
That
the same time?
motion's on the floor.
We're gonna approve that separately.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure.
Is that a second? All those who are in favor of this, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say aye. Hey, brother, sorry.
We got it. That's,
Okay, approved. Next item. 6.2.
Just, if I might, I'm sure that I'm doing this out of order. So first of all, just thank you very much for remembering the farmer's market. But I also want to I think this probably should have been in that very first moment when you were having open undiscussed items. But we did have somebody last weekend go down at the farmer's market, a woman with Parkinson's who needed some support. And as we were debriefing about it as a team afterwards, we were thinking that we did not know where we would be able to access an AED because, of course, we know there's a lot of changes. So this is way out of line. Or this is definitely not within where your agenda is. But one of the things that we were thinking about as the farmer's market is if the DDA might, and I'd be happy to carry this through later with Kate or somebody else, might be interested in putting 2 AEDs for defibrillators in 2 places in town where everybody knew that they existed. And whether that could be a service to the downtown area, given that we don't always have folks we don't have the police force in the same place that we have in the past. So just throwing that out, we felt like we needed to really view our safety concerns based on the incident that we had, and that was something that came up among us We don't think everybody needs one. We don't need our own. That's for sure. But we wondered if that was a team approach that made sense.
We'll take note of the fact that you've made that recommendation and probably put it in as a discussion item for our next meeting.
We would be happy to participate in thinking about that.
Okay. Kate, would you?
Yep, I have it in.
Okay,
Great.
all right.
Thank you all again. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
All right, so as part of this item, we still have one more grant application, and that's Peaks Vibes Festival. And Jesse Fox, the owner of Train Cars, wasn't able to join us this evening, but he did submit a follow-up from the event and a request for $1,000. And since he was newer, he didn't even know about, I know we talked about not really wanting to fund events that have already occurred, but the timing of his event and this application didn't coincide. So I just want to bring that up, that had been some discussion, but it didn't work for his event with the funds round in that. So I just wanted to bring that up for you all. And they're requesting $1,000 from the special event for the graphic design costs for the marketing. And so I don't know if anybody has any questions or anything. I'll try to answer.
I mean, I'll just maybe start off saying got to take my family down to the event and was able to get some balloons going and face painting with the kids, and it was like, wow, this is a really cool stage in the middle of the
The stage.
well, just an event in general
Uh-huh.
that seemed to be as Jesse stated, like he's not like he was selling a ton of alcohol. He was roasting coffee and kava, and there was pretty much free music for anyone who was at Tres Gringos or any of the other businesses. And I would imagine, I haven't asked them, but my guess is that all of the local businesses in the BNF were probably more busy that day. And just as far as like dovetailing with the summer concert series and having someone list what the actual costs were for what I would consider to be a reasonably sized stage that wasn't overpowered and was pretty on a shoestring budget. Granted, I may not have spent that much on graphic design, but that's neither here nor there. That he did it and was willing to do that, out of pocket. I mean, from my own experience, I thought that was great, and I would fully be in support of this. And I'll leave it at that.
Danielle has her hand up.
Go ahead, please, Daniel.
Thank you. I agree with Andrew. I was able to attend the event 2 times during that day. One earlier, actually later in the morning, and then in the early evening, because it was such a all-day event into the evening. It was enjoyable. I liked that the alcohol wasn't there. It was family oriented. The music sounded wonderful. And as a manager of the gallery upstairs, when we have events across town, our sales go down. This event more than doubled our sales that day, and that was fabulous. I definitely support it. I would definitely say I would like to help support him through the DDA with his request and encourage him to continue on with this. Thank you.
Question, did he have graphic design for that last time he did it?
Yeah, he had like a bunch of posters and kind of like a logo. And I mean, the last time being the first time, just
This
last
is the
weekend.
first.
Yeah.
First time.
This was the first time it's happened last
He's
Saturday.
asking for retroactive.
Oh, he want for reimbursement.
Some partial, he spent 11,000.
Yeah, I mean, this is $1,000, which we had capped it for special events, as you said, out of the 11 some odd that he spent here. But like Andrew said, it is nice to see how much the stage and the rental and all those things cost from his breakdown. Yeah.
Kid, I had a question, don't know if you can answer, but it says, total cost 11,846 and total profits before donation 1,140.
Mhm.
But the revenue you mentioned up ahead, up higher was nowhere close to over 11,800. So I'm wondering if that's like inaccurate or is it?
What
I just
revenue
don't get
portion,
that.
what portion?
Down to the bottom, it says total profits before donation was 1,140.
Yeah,
Which to me would mean that his revenue was like 12,986.
gotcha.
But when you look up above at his revenue, it's like 15 times 50. You know, what's that, $750, 500?
There's some reference up there about some sponsors too.
Yeah,
Got
sponsors.
some sponsor funds that aren't really called out.
Yeah. So I was just curious, like how much if it actually was a profitable thing.
I don't have the information on that. I'd be happy to reach out to him. His comment to me, though, when I talked to him on the phone was that it wasn't, but he enjoyed doing it, you know, that it was a fun thing that they would try to do and that. And so I don't get that feeling, but I'm happy to reach out and get some more particulars. And you could make the funding contingent on just some follow-up if that made you all feel more comfortable.
No, it was more just out of curiosity because the numbers didn't add up in.
Yeah, because I'm still not seeing the part, but maybe that's because I'm reading the top one.
And I just had one question. I wasn't there. I think I experienced it from my yard.
Yep.
In the evening, so it's great. But did they have any kind of traffic control at the event?
No, I asked him particularly and there wasn't.
Okay. And I'm just thinking going forward as we look at some guidelines for events that we're going to support through like an application process. It feels like for the benefit of the entire town, if we're going to support an event, we should make sure that it's facilitating effective traffic flow, right? And I don't.
And sanitation, yeah.
That was a busy day in Nederland. There was a morning event, there was an afternoon, evening event. So I just think that, I'm not saying it should drive our decision-making here, but going forward, as we look at an event, kind of questionnaire process, I think it's something that if we're going to support an event, we should make sure that everybody's kind of held to the same level. Most of the events are doing traffic control stuff. Yeah, I think it should be a proactive thing talking about, because otherwise there's the potential an event comes in and it actually hurts some businesses. And I think that that's not good.
I'd like to make a comment.
Question on this topic for Miranda. Doesn't the town require for an event permit, like that you say what you're doing for traffic control and that sort of thing?
Only if it's considered a large scale special event.
Oh, and this wasn't.
I don't know what this was permitted as.
Yeah, okay.
Must not have been a
Because
large scale
It
event.
sounded a little large scale,
Yeah, it
but
does
you
sound
know,
large scale, but I don't think they ended up going through a large scale application.
Yeah, I'd say like there's some of the busier restaurants probably have more traffic than this event did. Like he definitely did not, there was no gross profit happening anywhere on this event. It was, you know, nice to see a stage, in my opinion, like, you know, the stage, the vendors and actually right where it happened, which was, you know, in the B&F parking lot. And not to say that this couldn't get popular and out of control in the future, but you know, for what it was and how it came together, it seemed really well done.
I'd like to make my comment is that this is one of the instances where I think we really need to be cognizant of who benefits and how much. And given Danielle's comment that events on the north side of the creek are a detriment to the shopping center, that this one was an asset. I think we have to very carefully consider that factor in making a decision on this.
Is Barb on the line? She speak to Brightwood Music?
Barb?
Art?
Yeah, I'm here. I was not at Brightwood that day. I'm in town a little bit less now.
You get any feedback about the event, Barb?
I mean, it was, you know, kind of a regular day. With any festival or any event in Netherlands, people aren't necessarily coming to buy a guitar when they're going to check out some music at the train cars. So any event in town can be great for all the businesses around us, and it may not be our best day of the week, but we had a great day on Friday instead of Saturday. I mean, it's you know, I'm glad that they're doing something at the shopping center. I think that a little more organization and planning definitely could make it even better next year. And if there's a way we can help Jesse do that, he's really trying to do something awesome at the shopping center that helps all the businesses. So his heart is in the right place. I think overall the shopping center did good. I know that the Very Nice and other places seem to do well. So for us, it's just you know, we had people walking around. It was good. I don't know if it would have been any different on a different summer day.
Thanks, Barb.
When it comes to events, in principle, I want to just go to principle here for a second. I would love to be convinced otherwise, so somebody please do this for me. I have a hard time supporting events that are not nonprofit. Do you know what I mean? And so we have events that happen quite often now that they'll donate some proceeds to something. But they're not nonprofit, because there's some proceeds that stay with the organizers. Right, so it's a business venture. I don't know this fellow who did this, and I wasn't there, and I don't mean to throw shade at whether or not it was fun, or the face painting was awesome, the music was awesome, or whatever. In general, though, in principle, I have a hard time donating taxpayer money to something that's not nonprofit. So I welcomes a counter argument. Convince me what I'm missing here. And I'm not talking about this specifically. I'm going to a principle now. And then after we discuss it, we decide.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing is, maybe I understand your point, and I'm on board somewhat, but I think that you could think of it that whether it's for-profit or nonprofit, if it's deemed to be helping other businesses within the town enough, then it might not have happened. I mean, in this case, it already happened, but, it could be promoting these types of events that do help a wider variety of businesses in town. And indeed, they might also help the organizer, but as collateral from the having event versus not having it. So I guess that's one thing in favor of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think like you think about, they are businesses in the central business district, and people are like, hey, there's always events on the other side of town.
Mhm.
It seems like it's busy over there. And somebody gets enough motivation and energy and coordination to put something like this together, and it pulls people in, and they're not, they weren't charging, didn't put up a fence around it and charge admission. It was a bit of a, let's see if we can get some energy on this side of the business district. Then,
Okay.
yeah.
I want us to
understand
be-
what you're saying, but I do think it's the actual businesses that are in the district. Maybe it would be different if there was some outside entity that came in and was like doing something more for profit than for the businesses.
I think we'll have to draw some lines at some point in time. Because there will be, and there already have been, events where people come forward and say, here's what I want, here's what I'm asking for from you, and by the way, I'm getting paid too.
Yeah,
That's happened.
I think though.
That's not what this is, but
I hear you, Scott, and I think that it's up to us as a board collectively to, decide on qualitative benefits that aren't necessarily, able to be quantified, and, or to say, wait a minute now, that business is making a giant margin on X, Y, Z, and admission and merchandise, and
Or
and
this-
that doesn't seem like we should give them that much, or, maybe let's help with this little over here, but given the gross profit margin, I think qualitatively, knowing that really, aside from, coffee, on a Saturday afternoon, evening, or Kava, there's not much sales. I see he's got 1,100 in profit. I suspect that's actually, I don't know exactly how he calculated the books, but knowing how much was in that production and the stage, and having talked to like the people who were doing the sound and the lights and the stage and the setup and the musicians, that, qualitatively, what I believe that brought in this instance, and having experienced it, was more benefit than, and knowing that I would suspect that this is still ultimately a loss for the business owner, and to help, make it less of a loss and encourage them and to be part of the dialogue and going forward.
How do you feel about setting a precedent of reimbursing somebody for something they've already done?
Well, it's not a precedent. That's what happened last year a lot more. You all just decided you wanted to move away from that and you required that it be reimbursement now. And that's a part of things. So he's not really violating, he's still asking for reimbursement for different items. So that's why it's before you. And Danielle has her hand raised.
I think we really should consider capping this discussion and bring it to a vote.
Well, Danielle's has her hand raised.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Danielle. Don't want to leave you out.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I had one comment and Andrew covered it. And then I realized I still had something in the back of my mind, is that this business owner is a newer business owner. And when I talked to him, because I was curious about the stage and his experience with that and sharing it on our entertainment space. So I'm glad that he brought the information to us so we can understand what he put into for a stage like that. But he didn't really have an understanding of the NDDA, and that we offered these applications for financial help in doing exactly what he is doing. And I think this is a good opportunity to build repertoire with a newer business and saying, this is what we do. And if we decide or not decide whether to help him on this, at least build a communication saying, here's how you could bring something to us and how we would like to help you in the future. So I think it's a good opportunity to build communication with the businesses that we are trying to help. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. All right, let's bring it to a vote at this point. Is there a motion to support a $1,000 grant to this individual retroactively?
I move to support $1,000 to Peak Vibes Fest.
Is there a second?
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Anyone online that wishes to make any statement? Apparently we have no public.
Nope, there's no public.
Okay. All right. The motion is moved and seconded. We'll take a vote. Would you call the roll, please? Or I'll call it if you want me to.
Oh, I got it. Ron Mitchell,
Yes.
Steve Roundtree,
Yes.
Scott Papich,
Get back to me on this.
Andrew Dewar.
Yes.
Danielle Kraus,
Yes.
Barb Hart,
Yes,
Catherine Valen, Steve Crow,
Yes.
Scott Papich.
I'm gonna abstain.
Okay, motion passes. Congratulations, sir. You've got your grant. Let's move on to the next item.
Next item is wayfinding.
All right.
Steve and Steve.
Yeah, I can do that. So I understand without being here in person and all, it might be difficult to look at these signs, one by one. But I just wanted to kind of lay out the overview of what we've done and where we are and what we're asking.
Andrew, will you take over? I have to leave for a minute.
Yeah.
So Steve and I have spent a fair amount of time now going through these, and we worked with Merge. Kate was there with us, walking through the town to, determine all the sign locations. So I think that all the sign locations are essentially where we thought they would be. We did find and determine a few signs that we had missed on paper that when we were walking, we realized were required. So those have been added in. And a lot of this is fairly, the directionals for parking lots is a little bit involved. But we spent a lot of time to try to figure out, as you move through the signage and if you're in this point, what does this sign direct you to and where would you be after that and what would you need? So I think working with Merge, we've been able to determine a lot of these very well. The ones that I put in orange, Steve and I marked with orange, is things that, I could run through them with people running down our spreadsheet. But essentially, there's a lot of the kiosks, which we just don't know what the programming is, what the messaging is going to be on those yet. And that's not essential for moving the project forward at this point, because we can still get the fabrication documents going and all. And the same thing with a couple of the parking ID signs. We still need to work out with town and perhaps talk to Paul Benedetti about directing to private parking lots. So there's the B&F Plaza is in orange, because we would like to finalize that and make sure that Stephen Tebow, who owns that, would be amenable to us pointing to that as parking lot. And Ron's lots on First Street, we still haven't really had a discussion with him about that. So that's, besides the parking ID signs and the kiosks, that's the majority of the ones that we haven't nailed down yet. And so I guess what we're asking is if we, in order to be able to move this forward, if we would get the approval of the board for the signs that we've indicated here, and the messaging, most of them, the messaging is pretty straightforward. And with the contingency that the ones in orange, we still need to work out the details and the final messaging. And again, like we can put these out to fabricators, as long as we know how many messages are on a sign, what sign type it would be. That's how we could move forward with the fabrication documents without having to know the exact, characters and the words on the sign. So, and like,
Yeah, I think just to kind of tag on to what Steve's saying. I think if you go through the merge documents, they're pretty comprehensive as far as the location of the signs, and they're cross-referenced to the actual type of sign and the cost for that type of sign. And I think the key here is that we move forward with our ability to improve the sign locations. And we can filter through some of the final details on messaging, with the reality that all the way up until the point that these signs go into production, there's potential that something in town changes and a sign is going to change. And these signs potentially are going to need, actual signage is going to need to be updated periodically over time. But the core cost is like to put the kiosk in, to put the sign in, the actual detail of the messaging. If different things change in town, signs always need to be updated, right? So I think we're really focused on applications, and it feels like from the merge visit, we got to a really good place there, and trying to get this so that we can have it packaged up to move forward and get this out for a proposal so that we can actually do something next year. I think that's the big picture more than some of the smaller maybe questions on like the detail on the actual sign message at this point. That's going to be knocked out before the sign's installed.
Yeah, and thanks, Steve. And the other thing that was stated in the aim is that we would still be coming back with an RFP that we would want to send out once we get the merge to do the design documents. Then we would still need to create an RFP, and that would come back to the board for approval before we put that out for bid. So nothing's going out to any, for bids or anything like that. We just really we're hoping to get what we've done approved with the, ability to work with Merge on these final details before we get the design documents produced. So yeah, if anybody has questions for us, hope we can answer.
I take it that you or Merge is coordinating with, be it CDOT or any of the other potential property owners where these would be going, that,
Yeah.
I mean, I have total faith in you guys and Merge that these are well thought out, and then furthermore, like that, the actual content and, et cetera, would be figured out at a later date. And as long as, CDOT and town, have been looped in, and there's not gonna be an issue of, oh, wait, so-and-so said you can't put that there. Then yeah, I don't have any other questions.
Yeah, Merger is definitely working with CDOT when needed, and we're gonna reach out to like the city of Boulder if we need to, and things like that. For any sort of approvals for replacing existing signs. So yeah, all that would be for sure. Nailed down.
City of Boulder's got some signs up here in our area.
We're not positive on the one that points to the
Barker Reservoir.
Barker Reservoir.
That's City of Boulder
They own
water,
it.
right?
Yeah.
I think that's one of the learning things that we've had through this. It's wayfinding seems like, oh, it's easy signs, right? And you walk around. We've got Boulder Parks and Open Space, we've got US Forest Service, we've got City of Boulder, CDOT. So I think having Merge come in and kind of guide this process was really crucial. It's
Yeah.
stuff that would be missed by somebody who isn't an expert in this.
Yeah.
And I think being able to go back and leverage that expertise as we move forward. I think even the last time Steve and I met to go
Yeah.
through this stuff, there are so many layers of details for every single one of these signs. It's going to continue to, every time we look at it, we're going to say like, are we getting everything there, But I do think it's at a point where we're ready to move forward to be able to say we know the sign locations and the type of sign, whether it's a parking ID or a kiosk or a more simple sign. And I think we're at a spot where we're pretty good to be able to, move forward.
Just a lot of work.
Yeah, it's surprising, like Steve said, we were like, wow, this is, there are a lot of levels for each sign. But it's also exciting to see that, thinking of some of these lots that I didn't even know about one of them, that one over behind the Quick Mart that, we'll be directing to, and that's like 12 or 14 spaces over there. That's never used. It's an empty lot and it's right close to downtown.
Which one?
Right where behind the Quick Mart, like where they put the boulders in at 119.
Make it.
Yeah, so it's a, one way in and out. But yeah, I mean,
Where there's usually a couple of campermen.
right, yeah, if that. The day we walked it, there was no one in the lot.
So if you need something from us,
We really were just coming back to the board. One of the things is, this is a big project and we want to be really transparent and, make sure that the board feels like they're being apprised of what's going on and what stage we're at. So we're asking for approval at this point to move forward with what we're presenting, finalizing the last few details with Merge enough that we could get design documents produced.
so put that into a motion.
Yeah, so
Yeah, we
that,
have a proposal.
Okay.
Put a possible
Right now.
motion in there.
okay.
Yep, thank you.
I think it's, yeah, possible motions is, I'm not supposed to make a motion, I don't think. am I?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion.
It's gonna be fun.
I make a motion to approve.
Would you not be able
To move forward with Merge to finalize all signs and get design documents produced using the sign locations and messaging as laid out in the attached documents.
So,
Okay, any further discussion after the second? Anybody online wish to make a comment? Let's call for the vote. Kate, would you call the roll, please?
Ron Mitchell,
Yes.
Steve Roundtree,
Yes.
Scott Pappage.
Yes, please.
Andrew Dewar.
Yes.
Daniel Kraus. Barb Hart,
Yes,
Catherine Ballin. Catherine doesn't have a mic, but she's texting me and she says yes. Steve Carell, thank you, Catherine.
Yes,
All right, great, thank you all.
yeah. thanks.
Charge, full bore.
Yeah, we're excited.
Okay, next item. Is the budget.
Miranda? Well,
You want me to go over the real list? Not the fake list?
oh, yeah,
Third
Sorry about that.
list.
so we got another list, and it did change a couple of things, so it is.
Just slightly, which actually kind of makes more sense when I was
It
like,
does
oh, this
make more
makes a lot more sense. Okay, so your order. Now, let me find. Email. Oh, Sorry. Having a moment. Okay, great. So number one, finish phase one of wayfinding. Number two, finish the work in progress. Number three, create a summer concert series. 4, there's 2 ties, replace pressure fine sidewalks and create a comprehensive plan for traffic and parking. Then the next one is to set aside time to work on the comp plan. You've got collect existing data regarding the Riverwalk. Then you have housing. Then code regarding empty buildings, the sanitation district, and last is the loans. So just slight modification.
The loans.
Okay. So my only thing is that I hope we don't have to work on those absolutely in sequence. But we could.
No, it's just meant to more give you all an idea of where
Some
you're,
perspective.
where you are.
Yeah.
And part of the reason that we're having this goals conversation with the budget conversation with Downtown Colorado Inc. is to help us really refine a lot of these things. So that's why I put it into the packet this way. Just so that it is informing our budget discussion, and then you all can take all of this and then decide how you feel about the Downtown Colorado Inc. proposal.
Okay, that's coming up.
Yeah.
So are we done with that in terms of, that's pretty brief.
Well, let's go through the budget. And so, I don't know.
Let's call a 3-minute
Yeah,
recess.
let's have everybody take a break.
I'd like to
for-
change the goals one more time.
No.
Third time's a
As long
charm.
as they're still, as long as you
They're
keep that
emailed.
flexibility, that's okay.
They're now emailed to
Yeah,
you.
now they're
written
clear
for-
and they're, thank you.
Thank you.
Work on and look at.
Goals are. Right,
Recess.
yes. Recess.
Well, everyone, they're gonna one by one leave.
Right.
Just
Yeah.
take a second. Yeah.
So I realized I was.
That's fine, that's fine. Same thing, and your treasurer's report is the budget, you know, like we're talking about that and that, so.
So, but I did figure out I'm gonna get. I think my solution. You know, like, whatever it is, it's refresh. So I get a computer that's on its way out.
Okay, so then I'll just give you.
Donate it. To the
Okay.
DA, so then it's a, and as long as it works, it's a functional machine for as long as the DB.
It's the click system.
Yeah. Yeah. So it took me, I knew it was gonna take me a while to figure that piece out, and so.
It's just like, I know what all of this is, where it's.
So I haven't forgotten,
No, it is.
but I did forget to do it.
Thank you. No, don't worry about it. I'm just glad we were able to get Rita's 2 cents and that Rita feels good before she left
Well,
town.
and then I saw she's out of town.
Yeah, yeah. Her daughter is getting married. It's the only reason that she would leave in the middle of budget season like that.
Nice of her daughter to time it like that for her.
Yeah. Hopefully they're all having a lovely time in Mexico now. Okay.
So next we've got a budget to talk about.
Yeah, and I wanted to say, Ron and I were chatting right before the meeting. Since there's money available, you could just bring up during, if you wanted to, when we say information and say if anybody wants to say anything, you could just say during the Big Springs update what we're talking about, because we're not asking anybody for more money or anything. And so we are totally within the committee and my purview to kind of say, okay, yeah, let's move forward, but you can absolutely bring it up because I already put the punch list and everything in the packet. So everybody has all the information. But Ron was just stating that it doesn't necessarily need to be other business. And I totally agree, but if you wanted it to be that way, I'm also very happy with that too. But just however you want to move that forward. And what I was thinking is, I don't know if it's helpful for you to pull up our budget on your screen or not. I don't know how everybody wants to look at it.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna be making notes in mine if there's stuff that changes. That's the only reason I'm not gonna put mine up, because I think that'll get confusing. Oh, and you want me to just email you my stuff here?
Huh?
Do you have it easy? Is it showing up well? Because
I have to send it to my personal email because this is my personal. I got it.
I was gonna say I can send it real fast.
No, I've got it. I just said
I
this.
just don't know what makes it easiest for people to view. I
Yeah.
think it's sometimes in the Excel format versus the PDF, and sometimes that's not always the case, but you know what I'm
I'm
saying.
trying to pull it up in paragraph.
It should be okay.
Okay.
That's great.
Okay, I think everyone has returned. Anybody, let's resume our meeting. And we're finished with the budget.
Well, no, I think, well, it depends on how people want to move through this. I know that you are confident tonight, so I'm happy to go through line by line. As I've done in years past. But I also, we could do line by line of the projects, which I think is way more what we're still adjusting, where I can give you a broad overview. Generally, as you're all aware, we keep things pretty flat because portion is funded with mill levy that, you know, doesn't fluctuate too much. And so this year we've kept it a little conservative because there is legislation that could change how much property tax we get. So we've just kept it flat this year to see how that moves forward. So if we get more money, great, we'll accept it. You know, it still comes to us. It's just more for budget purposes. We're just being a little more conservative in light that things could change. And that's at Rita's suggestion.
Okay, so I prefer shorter to do it by project.
Okay, so I'll just start with the first tab of the total, just to finish what I was saying here. So we've kept things mostly flat. There's been a few fluctuations and you'll see notes on the column. So if anybody has questions on the first tab and any of that stuff before I move to projects, which is where we'll spend the majority of our time, because that will change things, just let me know. The only question sorry, I forgot, I did have one question for you. In the past, we have kept $500 budgeted for rent. Is that something the board wants to keep doing?
Yeah,
To possibly be used for the executive director or whatever. Because I know in the past there has been different thoughts about that, and I'm happy to keep moving it forward. I just wanted to bring it to your attention. That's why it's highlighted as a question for us. The other highlights are for me. Andrew? do you-
Yeah, I mean, no, given we have the community center, it seems like rent would not really be a thing.
Because I have utilized the community center space, the conference room, sorry, Brenda, I took your secrets. But like, so I'll use that, but then I also, of course, meet with people in our businesses in the district. So I don't feel that it's something that I need, but I wanted to bring it to the board. Because you're right, the community center space is great and just meeting town, so.
Yeah.
Okay, then I
You
will.
can always have an office that's vacant on our spot too. A town hall, lots of people come and work in empty offices.
Is there any place like that?
Yeah, because our team rotates in and out, so there's always empty offices.
Why
So you're always welcome.
Oh, well, thank you. That's very nice. But yeah, I haven't found it to be a challenge in 2.5 years, so it's really up to the board. But I'll just zero that out then, and I will put in a note as to why we did that. Okay. So I'm not seeing any questions about kind of the nitty gritty of our business, which is more our rents and our bills and that, and where our money's coming in. But again, most of the things we keep flat, so there's not any big change that I feel I really need to alert you to. Except for the fact that we are getting, like you noticed last year, we are receiving more interest from our accounts than previously, so that adds to our balance sheet a bit there. So that's another thing to just to bring up. All right, I will move things on to projects. So I'll start off, and I am going to go line by line for this so that you all understand. So admin, and it says TIF. This year, as you remember, when we did the Riverwalk and pump track action, we just moved $5,000 to TIF just to make sure we had enough admin and to put that money someplace. And we're not going to get into it because, like I said, we have money that comes in for interest that can meet those costs. We just, due to the fact that you upped my hours and did different things with your personnel action for me this year, that was what made that happen. I'm not carrying that forward, but what you're seeing for the budget for 2024 is that $30,000 that we talked about for project feasibility and professional studies. So what would happen with that fund is you'll have that money for if something comes up and we start talking about it, but then once that becomes something that we actually fund, it would get booked to a TIF project. So it wouldn't be this amalgamous thing unless nothing happened with it. And that's fine. You know, like we have to find out, we have to do a study to find out sometimes of those things. But hearing all the conversation, that's where that access to that money can be. And so if you feel like $30,000 isn't enough, we could up that. But that's the thought that would be where you could access money right away to go do things that then we could go to the board of trustees and say, hey, we did this assignment, we funded this. Now we're coming with a resolution to do the project and yada, yada. That's how it would move there.
And so, I may have missed it in your explanation, but so say we have the 30,000 for that, and we do a study on the Riverwalk, it costs us 20,000 for the study. And we decide, yes, this is a great thing, we're gonna start doing the Riverwalk, and we start it in 2024. Do we then take the 20K that we spent out of this bucket and move that into the
Yes.
Riverwalk? So this
Yeah.
goes back up to 30.
So, yeah. So Riverwalk isn't the best example because Riverwalk will already be budgeted. I'm talking about those things that randomly come up.
Okay.
So
But the idea is that it would
Yes.
get moved, whatever money was spent would be moved, and this would come back up to 30.
Exactly.
As long as the project was.
as long, and if we had the money to move it back, if we could do all the action without doing a supplemental, now we're kind of getting into weeds, but if we could do all the action without the supplemental, yes. Now, if we had to do a supplemental, that is what the thought would be, that we would just keep that fund replenished. So whenever we went for the resolution for the final project, we would just make sure to tie it out. But the key is that we do need to book those to a project once they exist, because that's just best practice.
Okay. Sounds good.
So if there's no questions on that one, I'll move on to beautification. You have this year's budget was 30, you have the year-to-date column, and I'm not gonna go over all those, you can just ask me questions if there's something. But you had talked at our last meeting, at the special meeting, about $60,000, and that would include more maintenance in areas and trash receptacles. And so just making sure everybody still feels good about 60 for that.
What do we mean by maintenance? It includes maintenance.
Well, somebody has to take care, somebody has to dump the trash. Somebody has to, there's more unintended consequences to than just putting that up. Like Miranda and I had kind of talked about that there's more to it than us just putting those up there, that now there's the maintenance of those things.
The maintenance of trash.
Well, not just the trash, maintenance of the areas that people are bringing up that they want Judy to start working at, like the Peace Garden, Mountain for Peace's property, those different things that we have to be able to account
More
for her
gardening
time.
areas or areas where Judy would be working.
Excuse me?
So more like garden areas.
Yes, it's
different
including a
spots
few
around
different
town.
areas that people have requested. So this just, by upping the budget, it basically would give, especially at this amount, it would give Judy the flexibility to really move throughout the district.
Have you talked to Nikki yet about, I can't remember where we left off, if Nikki's been brought up to speak, because I think, again, if you're gonna budget money, but you're expecting the Parks Department to do the work, I'm gonna tell you now, the Parks Department's not gonna do the work.
It's,
Even
that
if you
was,
gave them money, they're so slammed
Yeah.
that without hiring a person, they're not gonna just take this on.
Yeah. and that's why that was included.
However, you could pay for a temporary employee for Public Works.
And again, with
Seems like a
60,
big number to me.
well, with 60, if all those 60 could potentially cover those things, of the seasonal employee, upping, Judy's time, you could potentially get in there, like, I don't know about working with town in that way. It might be something that the DDA takes on a temp person, so that then that could save some costs as well, just like Judy, like, would just be another person that I'm managing. But
I guess
that's,
I would argue that it needs to be a Parks employee, because that person can't be doing something different from the Parks team.
no, that's,
Now, a seasonal employee costs us approximately $15,000.
Okay.
Because we don't pay benefits, we just pay the hourly wage.
so 15K for like a summer.
For like that's about, 3.5, 4 months.
Doesn't seem like the business we're in.
Well, I mean, I kind of look at this like, I walk through town a lot. When I walk through town, I see a lot of garbage everywhere. Right?
Mhm.
And I think it's that question of like, I don't think that really the core of the DDA is also flower gardens, but there's this idea that it's a beautification. And so I have a hard time when I walk by and look at the flowers, they look nice. Look at all the garbage that's blown in around them. And that's kind of an ongoing thing. And I think Andrew kind of was the one in the last meeting that sort of connected the dots there and said like, well, if we're concerned about beautification in the business district to make it look welcoming and like people care, maybe we need to go at it from two sides. And I think that's kind of where we got here.
So what do we aim at then? Trash receptacles and taking care of the trash receptacles, right? Or we talking about twice as many flowers.
Some of
Well,
each.
I don't know if we have an exact answer, and I think just setting aside funds, this was something that I was part of, I guess I'll take ownership of that, wanting really to see more waste and recycling receptacles and help make sure they are emptied, and even potentially, set aside funds for someone to, pick up. I mean,
Yeah,
pick
like
up,
what Miranda was saying.
Like
having
a
the parks
seasonal
staff.
parks
Right.
employee.
Yeah.
right, but not necessarily, trying to burden the parks employee to do it, but just that's, I think, something that is for the good of
So
the.
how do we actually execute on this? Do we fund the hiring of a seasonal?
Yeah, I mean, we would basically just bill you for that employee.
So basically what happens at this meeting is we have this discussion abstract, and then of course you need to know if you want to include these, but a full budget of how this would work will come in January and February and so this discussion helps us figure out what we need to figure out in there, and we want to inform and make sure there's enough money, but like the detail, like we're not going to be able to get to.
Right, and you can have your like stipulations. Of course, I want to talk to Nikki about this, but if you say, hey, we're willing to fund your part-time employee, but they're dedicated to of course, just the DDA, and here are the tasks we want them to do, that's fine. I just would want them to report to Nikki, so there isn't an employee going out there doing the exact same thing her team does, who doesn't have the accountability to her.
Okay,
I can say what I thought in my head when I was thinking this is that a bear-proof trash and recycling, receptacles is about $800 just for the unit, not including installation. So say that, to buy a unit and install it, maybe 1,500. So if there were like 10 units throughout town, 15,000 plus then the actual labor and then waste disposal fees, like there's a big number there. But I was thinking like 10 pairs, a pair being trash and recycling throughout town, that we would help town see that they're serviced.
Yes, I know that's a different question. That's not a summer, that's an all year round kind of.
That's an all year round.
Then that's an all year round employee.
Yep.
You're not, it's no longer just
Yeah. That's right.
that's a $45,000 a year employee.
Hopefully not just.
But employee just to walk around and.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could do part-time, but even then, you're still looking at, yeah, we still pay benefits, we still have all those structures, so.
But again, the benefit of, and the overlap of what's town, what's CBD, you know, I don't have all those answers.
Okay, so I don't need all the details, but I just want to get an idea. So it sounds like we're saying go from 30,000 a year to 60,000 a year, dedicating most of that increase, most of that to trying to mitigate our trash problem in the downtown area. Details to be figured out later, correct?
So yeah, I didn't mean to, I know it's hard because you want like to zero in on like a budget and be detailed, but like right now, that's not the way that, you know, it's just hard. I know it's how it kind of goes.
I just would like to know that there's, if we actually know we're going to do something and
Yeah.
how we're going to do it, that's all.
Okay. All right, are we done with beautification? We still good about 60,000? That feels good to everybody?
I feel good about it. I'd like to say fine. I've been interviewing the merchants and we have one very successful pizza place on First Street. And we have a lot of merchants who are complaining about having to pick up pizza boxes. So I think there's a real cooperative effort needed from several directions to solve this problem. Because the areas where there's picnic tables, there's no trash cans. So the pizza boxes end up on the ground and the merchants within that area end up picking them up and they're complaining to me about it as a property owner and also as the chair of the DDA that they want us to do something. Anyone else? have a
They're still
comment?
there, but the two of the trash cans that are, the one by the.
Rustic Moose.
Rustic Moose,
Yeah.
and then over by the covered bridge. I think those are town bear-proof units, and they say no pizza boxes on the sign. So people are following directions, they're not throwing out their pizza.
And there's a can hole in the recycling, like that's,
Yeah.
you can only fit
Only Red Bull.
12-ounce soda can through the hole.
Next item.
All right, wayfinding. I have included $275,000 for next year based on your discussions. Is that correct?
I think so, yes, he
Okay.
was more involved on that side.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, and before we budget this, this is based on the estimates from Merge, and before we go out to bid. And I'm gonna say every single thing that I've seen back from a contractor for the last several years is more than anticipated. So I think we should be ready that when we put this out to bid, that it's gonna come back more than we anticipate. We can meet the budget as is, but I think we should be ready if we say that we wanna get this done. That there's a high probability that it's gonna come back higher than the estimate that we currently have.
Well, do you want to cover that right now?
Yes.
Because my concern is that if we don't, there's not a lot of other places that we could maybe pull it from, where, you know, we've had that luxury the last few years. So I think, you know, covering for that now would be helpful, because like we said, it doesn't matter if we don't spend it. You know,
Yeah.
we still get it, you know.
Yeah, I wanted to make that point is that I think for all of these items, like, we don't feel any pressure to spend the money. It's not like other instances where you spend it or you lose it.
Yeah,
Like, we're not gonna spend it if we don't.
it's more about making sure you have the wiggle room to make the decisions you need to make,
Yeah.
especially in light of what Steve's saying about the cost of construction, which we all know to be true.
Give us a figure. Increase it to what you think the maximum would be. And then add 10% to that.
Just made a
I
money,
mean, we have 275.
What?
just made a money.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, it brings me-
We've got so much invested in this.
Yeah, I mean,
Agreed.
It just needs to get done. And I don't want
I
to go to
mean,
the board and tell them we have.
I just, 25% over makes it 343.
So make it 350.
Can we make it
And then-
4 just to make me feel good? Because, I mean, I know that's a lot, but we just don't know what's coming. And I would rather, I don't want, like I just said, Miranda, I don't want to go to the BOT because we need 25,000. Do you know what I mean? Or some small gap like that, but maybe 4 is too much, but I just,
I mean, the other thing that's gonna happen, and my concern with this is that we put this out for a proposal.
oh,
And then
somebody sees.
Then it comes back and it's higher, and then we go back to the person who bid on it and we say, well, we're gonna whittle out a bunch of the signs. And then they go, well, that's not what I bid on. I have no interest in that project anymore.
Mhm.
So if we're gonna like push this through and get done with it, I think we're better off to predict that it's gonna come back higher. And if we don't spend it, great.
Yeah,
That's
You
right.
know, and we do have some signs in there that potentially can also look at in the later phases that probably never need to happen, right?
Yeah.
So really it's probably, if we do this right, it's phase 1 and done. So,
I chair entertains a motion to increase the allocation to 400.
I don't know if you need to motion
you don't
one,
need to motion it, but
as long as there's agreement.
yeah,
Okay.
just as long as everybody has a
Alright.
nod about that.
Consensus is fine.
Does that feel excessive or does that feel accurate?
You want 25%, Steve, to get 343?
I went 25% to get 343. I mean, it just depends on where we're at in the world of inflation and different things. I mean, Andrew, this is your world too, right? You see stuff changing all the time. I just feel like every project that I've been involved with in the last couple of years.
And
It-
just let me ask you,
mind-boggling.
the opinions on cost there for install, that's coming from Merge based on a few months ago?
That's what I was gonna say, how long, because that could be 2 years old almost now, some of that, if it isn't, the most- I think it is a little outdated.
Yeah, so yeah,
I was gonna say.
look to see whether those numbers had changed when it came back. So I don't know if he revised it upward from, it was like a year and a half before that.
Yeah,
What was
He's
our
looking
contingency
forecast
on
based
this?
on national averages.
Yeah.
30%?
That's a little bit of another thing that we have going on here, and that is our ability to get
Yeah,
contractors.
I was just gonna say, it's not even just like people look
people
at
that
like the
are-
Denver area and there's this special extra premium for our beautiful mountain living
Yeah.
that, to
Yeah.
get anyone up here. So,
Yeah,
I would say, yeah, 400 seems excessive, 350 seems, probably like it would do it. 375, at this point, like,
yeah.
what is it? 375, sure.
Again, my only intention with 4 is just so that we don't have to talk about supplemental and we don't have to go to BOT. That's my only thing about that, but 350 is just fine too.
It's your decision, guys. Make a motion.
Tell me what to put in.
Make a suggestion, I guess. if we
Okay,
need a motion.
I would suggest 400 and just know that we're not gonna spend it if we're not,
Mhm.
that's not required by the.
I see Andrew nodding.
Sure.
Okay, Scott's nodding. You guys, we have consensus.
Yes, thank you all.
Yeah, thanks, you guys.
Next item.
Okay, so, Big Springs, that's gonna be hopefully paid out this year. We're wrapping that up.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to hear now or at the end of this, just kind of, there's a few items of, related to the punch list that Edge needs to come back up and do. A couple pieces of sidewalk have settled in front of the Black Forest that they need to replace. And it was also brought up that there is some, lost, some issues with, the riprap rocks that are stabilizing the inlet on the east side by the utility pole on Hub Ned, and then the west side at 119 where Tebow's property is. And, given all of this was never put in the design, and given all of the water we've had that has washed the dirt out from the boulders, also known as riprap, that kind of hold back the hillside and the culvert entrance into the pipe, that we've asked and gotten a quote for about $7,000 to pull the boulders apart and put them back together and grout them on both of the inlets, the inlet and outlet, inlets on both sides, but east and west end of that pipe, as well as add a couple reflectors. Two is what they quoted us, but long story short, there's about $8,000 in justified change order that we'd like to add to the end of the project. And they also, Edge has, some work to do in correcting some issues that JVA has brought up, as well as Steve brought up with some boulders that have to do with his parking lot and snow removal. So, the original Edge contract was $338,000, including approved change orders that had to do with escalation. JVA's budget was about $20,000. All told, between JVA, Excel, and Edge, we're into them, so far for about just under $360,000. There's a retainage that Edge has of about, what was the total, again, the total amount, Kate?
350, or what, total amount of what?
So like the project budget as a whole. Do you remember?
For
from
this
the-
phase,
Well,
the very, very beginning?
Yeah. Doesn't matter, okay.
Can't remember the first approved amount from 2020.
But I mean, I'm looking at Edge's retention and what is due, and it seems like Edge's retention is only, about 45,000 plus a change order of 8, plus what we owe JVA, we're somewhere less than 60. I have no idea how we're gonna, unless I'm missing something drastic, I don't see us getting anywhere near 120,000. So, or I'm sorry, budget for,
That was what we had to carry over.
got it. Okay, right. So yeah, I think.
We're
well,
right there,
yeah.
but that's the key. We're right there with getting big springs out there. And then like Andrew said, it is approvable change order. It's all, we both walked it with JVA and Edge, and it's in the budget. So just letting you know that those are things, and that Steve, we're still working on. I think there is still some response that we're working on, but
Okay.
the first step was saying, hey, we're okay with this, with the rip wrap. And then, because I think you saw
The asphalt, they're not down with doing anything with the asphalt except tearing it out, because their position is, it was a pothole to begin with. They had extra asphalt and they decided to put it in there. And if you want to tell them to remove it, they'll tear the asphalt out and leave a pothole. Otherwise, they're just gonna, not do anything.
So what we talked about, so that wasn't, we talked about ways that they could come up if they were gonna be doing something else, if they had maybe extra, they tried to be flexible with us, but I think at the end of the day, that there was just no way to fix that piece, because they thought they had a little extra and they were helping out. So that's essentially it. But the conversation, they did try to see if they were gonna come back and do something else, if there was a way that they could break out the cost of like, you have the option to pay it or something. So there were lots of different paths taken, but I think at the end of the day, it was just like, there's nothing we can do about that. So we can follow up.
No, I mean,
about
they
that.
can remove the
Yeah,
asphalt.
well, yeah,
If you would like it removed. Not that we need to talk about that right this second.
Yeah,
but
okay.
that was it.
So we're gonna do this. Nod. Consensus, fine.
Okay.
We're doing it. Okay, we're about 8 minutes over. Sure like to see if we can't finish by 15.
Okay, Ned Fire Protection District, IGA, again, that will stay level, because since with our property, that's a calculation from the mill levy. And so that gets determined by that calculation, and we're staying in there with 30, so I'm keeping that flat. Event support, what I heard was 10,000. Again, for this year, as you've seen, we haven't pulled anything, and like I let you know, since we made it reimbursement based and that they have to provide me the backup, that's taken people longer. So I'm asking people and, trying to get that started, but I have a feeling, it'll be the end of the year when people are realizing they need to get paid, as it always is. But I am trying to get out in front of it and get the people, especially like Ned Gravel. Gavin is typically very responsive and he always gives me great reports. So I'm not concerned about that, but farmers market, we need to get their reports and that. And so I'm following up with them and Stephanie as well. So just so that you know why those haven't pulled too much money.
Yeah, I have a question on just on event support,
Sure.
just kind of going back through our priority list. We have on our list summer concert series. I don't see that in our current budget plan anywhere. And
It is actually.
I call it
Performance
performance-based just because that's what we called it. And so I have a note that says it's some.
Repurposing and performance.
so that now is it performance based or is it a concert?
So I think
Yeah.
when we put it into the budget for town, we'll call it summer concert series. But because you're looking at what you've done previously, that's why I kind of kept the performance-based name on it. But
Okay.
the thought is that, yes, it'll be called the summer concert series as we move forward, but it's.
So is it for so is the $25,000 for infrastructure or is the $25,000 to run a concert series?
Go ahead, Andrew.
I was just gonna say, Jesse provided so much good info with his small event of it being about excluding marketing or traffic control, like $7,000 for the stage and lighting and musicians. Not that we are gonna hire musicians or stage and lighting, but that, you know, a small event like that in general might be anywhere from $7,000 to, you know, $9,000. So what is the concert series for? I think our intention was to hopefully get some organization and seed money for people who are able, we're not managing, have no business managing events,
Yeah,
but to hire and manage people who can hire and manage events.
and that's why my question came up with event support. So is it that we're saying that we're setting aside $35,000 for event support?
Between the summer concert series and.
Between the event support and the summer concert series?
10,000 for other people's events who come to us, and then 25,000 to, and we haven't run any of this through these evaluation questions, but Andrew and I have talked about this a lot. And this needs to be talked about with the whole group is what are we really intending to do? What do we want? What would be the experience to be like? What can we afford? Do we want to charge tickets? Do we want to get into that business? None of that's been figured out, but $25,000 it's a number that signifies that we're going to try to do something.
And this is where I'm trying to understand what it is, because for
Yeah.
me, if it's to support summer concerts, then it's event support. And if is the DDA, we're not investing in performance-based infrastructure, and we're not trying to run a DDA concert series.
I think
I'm honestly trying to like kind of flow through and understand what the $25,000 is and how it's different than the 10,000 event support.
let me
Go ahead.
venture guessing. What we need to do before we decide to spend hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to build infrastructure or event infrastructure isn't just figure out if it's on a floodplain. We need to figure out, do we even know what to do with a space like that? And if everybody's talking about concerts, then let's just demonstrate to ourselves for a year or two that we know how to do something like that before we build a $500,000 space for it. Anyway, right? Is that?
I would kind of characterize it as that I don't believe the DDA should be in the business of administering or running events. I believe qualitatively that the DDA should support a summer concert series similar to the things that we see other towns do, like Louisville or Frisco or et cetera, where there should be enough funds to give a, call it the new summer concert series committee to be able to hire and work with town.
So it's kind of setting aside maybe the ability for someone to come up with a proposal and we would provide a grant for someone to run a summer concert series.
That's what I smell.
Okay.
Does
I'm
that,
just really trying
Yeah,
to,
and I mean, it'd be great if there was actually enough money there for the grant itself, because it seems like, 10 to 25,000 would be enough for someone to actually like do a coherent proposal or an organization. That being said, that knowing that just as basic stage rental and whatever is $7,000 to $9,000, and there'd be 6 to 8 of them a week, you could easily spend, you know, or 6 to 8 of them a summer.
Summer, yeah.
Summer, you know, 80 times 80. Sorry. So you could, you know, 100,000, you could
Okay.
actually not only
I mean,
fund
this-
the study, but.
So this is, no, I'm trying to understand it because
With infrastructure.
the question is if we're really trying to like create an opportunity to say like, could there be the 2024 Netherlands Summer Concert Series? Then $25,000
Probably wouldn't get there.
doesn't get us there, right? But we could say it's an event or two, maybe.
We could do 2 or 3 events for that kind of money. But we still haven't talked about, and I don't want to go too far in the weeds, we haven't talked about, is this something that we're gonna go out and find somebody who's not local or not Boulder County based and pay that kind of money? Are we gonna charge for tickets? Are we gonna, because there's ways you can do that that really generates a lot of business for your downtown area. We haven't talked about them, but that's worth a brainstorming session. There's a lot of stuff we could do. That should be a different working session.
Right, and I think, you know, to kind of honor both of those, I would say that that number I would see should be, you know, if we were talking about 2024, that number should be increased to account for like the potential of it being a larger actual series that's administered by something that's been well thought out and approved and then has metrics with it, like maybe the wooden nickels that are, you know, then given to other vendors throughout town and, you know, so.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
So there's things you can do like, hey, you pay $15 for a ticket and here's your $15 voucher. You get your money back, but you can only spend this in a business downtown. That kind of thing,
I think I'd like to ask you to curtail this discussion and go to the next item.
So what I need from that is, are we gonna up it from 25? Are we gonna group the 10 and the 25 and call it all event support? Because I've heard, and I can see keeping it separate, and I can also see keeping it together. So it's really up to the board.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand what
Yeah.
we're doing.
I
Okay,
think if we don't keep it separate, it means that we'll end up dipping into that for another small festival.
Is there a way that we can not put in the performance space?
oh yeah, this is just
Okay.
for us to help our conversation. When I present, when I give it to Rita back, I'll have it say summer concert series. Or
Okay.
if you say, I want to have it say something else.
And I
It was,
know we're trying to be kind of brief here,
Oh,
but
go ahead.
I think if we're gonna do this next year, and this is another one,
Uh-huh.
there's still a lot of stuff to figure out. But I don't think that it sets us up to even get a local person interested in saying like, I'm gonna dive in and try
The
to
old
do this.
thing.
So we're gonna do it, it's 40 or it's 50 that we set aside for it.
Okay.
To say like, is this something that going forward leads to building a true performance space and making Nederland like the destination in the summer for like evening concerts, right? So setting aside $50,000 for a summer to say the town loves it, great, or that didn't work, but there was some music for a summer. I just feel like 25 doesn't do much.
I was gonna say 100, but so.
what is,
Increase your traffic control proportionally.
Right, so 70.
so you have 50 for summer concert series, and right now you have 50 for traffic and safety support.
I only saw the budget for 2024, that's what we're talking about, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. It was
25,000.
25, so move that to 50 and then
Yeah.
and then, sorry, now we're like popcorning around. because
Yeah,
I-
no, but I have a plan of how to get you back, so it's okay.
Take
It's all
over.
right, it's all right.
I'll stop
So-
talking.
Oh, no, that's fine. So, Andrew brought us back to the line above that. So pump track, there isn't anything that we're expected in there. So that's just more telling you where we are with spending and not including it in the future. Traffic and safety, as I said, you had said you wanted to have 50, so there's that into there. I'm gonna go back at, so Ped Mobility, this is again, these are match funds that you had already approved, so these are things that we're just keep carrying over until the grants are complete. So I verified those numbers with Rita, so we're all on the same page about what we need to, keep moving forward to help with our commitments. Public art master plan and projects. This year you, had requested 50. And, after speaking with Danielle a bit, that 50 would include, with the sculptures, dealing with the sculptures as we discussed at the last meeting. And again,
Your sculptures?
the Eldora donation, the Marion sculptures.
If there's a desire to relocate them, they're not.
Many more. We got you to.
Not that big.
Potentially someone else.
Okay, so I just wanted to say that that was the NPAC's thought was if that was increased, that's where they would make sure that something happened with that. Then we got the event support, you've already talked about the 10. Okay, so now we're back at Riverwalk. And Barb, are you there?
Yes,
Okay, can you jump in with the amount that Nikki sent us? Just because I don't have that email up in just a second. You mind? Barb has been working on getting some numbers and she's worked with town a bit. And so we got some numbers in your packet in the update. You'll see that information. So I guess it's for my next.
right. It's around $5,000 to rework the trails from the pedestrian bridge to the pavilion. So the first idea is to fix what we have, because we have a great trail system that goes down that side of the creek. And it connects Chipeta Park to the pedestrian bridge. And that's what we looked at first. We walked along it and she showed me all the problem areas and we talked about what it would take to fix those. We talked about, next summer talking about having areas built in that are similar to like the kids fishing pond where there's a little deck. So something like that, not over the water, but at the edge so that people have places to sit that's a little bit more accessible. And we wanted to make sure it was all ADA accessible along the path. So that's a first step and it's something that we could do now to fix what's going on with the water problems along the path.
So that's the update on where Riverwalk is and how that could move forward in 2024, if the board feels that way.
I didn't hear if there was a number for the 2024 budget. Or is
So
it
there's-
50,000?
So there's nothing in there yet because I wanted to incorporate the 5,000 quote. And if you all thought of anything else. I didn't want to just put that in there. I wanted you guys to talk about it since you didn't really talk about it during our project discussion before.
Barb, what is the 5,000 supposed to cover?
Just reworking from the pedestrian bridge to Chipeta Park as it stands now on the south side of the creek.
That gravel trail, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems like not that much, but again, I haven't walked the trail in a little while.
Is this a totally different notion than what we had originally talked about a year ago?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and Barb, correct me if I'm wrong, that the conversations so far have been about the north side of having a river walk on the north side. I think we spoke earlier about the fact that maybe that's not feeling doable. So what this is to take what's there, which is a river walk that's on the other side of the creek and make it better for a small amount.
Correct. For a small amount for now, but with ideas of expanding it down the road. And yes, in talking to Lee and the little survey that he had, and in talking to other business owners, it's not feasible to do anything on the north side of the creek right now. That could happen down the road, but right now it's taking what we have and making it better.
And so it would really be kind of what's happening down with the other grant funds in Versio and that zone where like they're making some of the pathways just,
More defined.
yeah, better.
These
better
decorative light sculptures need a path to light up.
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Next time.
So does,
I think that number should be higher if we're really talking about improving the existing Riverwalk, but then to Scott's point of is it to whose benefit, town or DDA? And again, this is a qualitative thing. I think collectively, yes, both. This number should, in my opinion, be, if you've got engineers, you've got, hardscape, landscape, other things,
Well, another idea that Nikki brought up was to pave from the corner of Lakeview Drive to the pedestrian bridge, so that it was completely ADA accessible across to the pedestrian bridge. And of course, the problem is once you get across the pedestrian bridge, ADA accessibility is not easy to get up to First Street.
It's weird.
I mean, I would say you could spend it as much as you want on that existing path. And I think what seems like a realistic or reasonable number that's not excessive still could be $50,000 to improve and make that really a nice lit, stabilized.
Yep.
Could I ask what the impediment is to doing something on the north side?
There's too many things in the way right now. There are business owners that are not willing to talk about it right now. There are changes coming maybe to town that people don't want to give up their access across the creek right now without knowing what's going to happen. So right now, it's really not something people want to talk about. And I have talked to a lot of the businesses, and it's not something that they're going to do right now.
as well
So
as,
right now, we can fix what we've got. We could add benches. We could add, make it so that it's the right width. It's not right now. We could put a couple little punch outs so that there were little decks to sit on so people can go down there and have a picnic, along the creek with a table or a bench. There are many things that we can do that will be pretty inexpensive overall to repair what we already have going on.
Thank you.
Andrew, I hate to put you on the spot, but do you have a number you think? would be good?
50,000.
50? Okay. Does that feel good to everybody?
I agree.
Thank you all.
Creek is.
I think it's a great idea to pay for the pedestrian.
People buy one, hopefully buy some,
Bridge to the
walk around,
creek.
come and sit and eat. So we want.
One of the other impediments
Okay.
is there are people who don't want to give up the willows. But we could easily give up some willows to make it more pleasant.
All right, you are almost
1.5 hours. So
through it.
way over time.
Okay, so the last two items for 2024 are the matching funds for the DRCOG transportation grant. And Rita said, we haven't had any bills yet, but there has been work on that. So we will pay out some this year, but she's asked us to move 6,700 over. And then there's the tip matching funds. And the 99,840 is what we paid for the visitor center. So that's what you're seeing for year-to-date 2023 costs. And so then we need to move over the 39,160 for the rest of the tip matching funds. So there you go.
And I know we want to keep this quick, but
Go ahead.
if we go back to our goals list.
Yep.
Item number 4, sidewalks, replace crusher sidewalks with concrete sidewalks. We haven't talked about that in this budget. And if that's our 4th priority collectively, when we talk about things, do we want to put,
Got that.
do we want to put funds in there to make that happen? Or do I get to keep twisting my ankles?
Yes. 30,000.
Is 30 an appropriate number to impact that?
I don't think 30 even.
Didn't somebody say it will cost something like $900,000 to do the job?
I mean, that's an expensive amount of concrete work and stuff.
Back to the question,
I
is this a town project or is this an ADA?
It's a DDA
I
project.
can promise you, if you want it to be a town project, it's not gonna happen next year.
Yeah, so I think that's where it becomes an ADA project.
Everywhere there's a slope, it just pushes out every rain. It's really dangerous, at least in those areas, putting in concrete.
I agree. I totally agree.
It's just a mess.
I-
So we're not talking about raising the sidewalk,
No,
we're just talking
Talking
about.
about concrete
actually-
blocks within the-
We don't want to go all the way to how it should have been done.
Well, wait a minute now. I would love to see and get an assessment on, because I think, again, it is crazy and I'll try to be short, but all of the impacts good or bad, that would happen if there was a true curb and gutter from stormwater, from safety, from traffic, like if we're, let's not put, good money after bad. I would love to know what it would take to do it, in my opinion, how it should have been done from the very beginning.
So I think we already pulled that data when we came to you with the NEDPED's Reimagine.
Curb and gutter and elevated.
So I did get an estimate that included curb and gutter, and the total is 468,958.
That's probably.
Okay, and what is it
Not
to
bad.
fill? Do we know what it is just to pour concrete?
Just to do
Fill
the
in.
concrete. the
That's what I'm
concrete
talking about.
Was 361,887.
Not much different.
I was gonna say,
That's
that
the
is
whole
not a
thing.
difference.
That, yeah, I mean, that's doing
I'm just
all
saying
of
what it's worth.
downtown.
Like on Easter,
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's,
there's
you
already
just said,
been,
maybe we need to rethink the priority if we don't feel like it's
If we
worth that
don't,
much
yeah.
money, but I didn't wanna like go through and approve our budget and leave one of those big things hanging out there. Yeah.
this is a proposal of 30,000 just for where it's washing out. There's 4 or 5 places that the town has already paid for it. The DDA didn't. One is right on Second Street for about 40 feet. There's 2 or 3 more places on Second till you get to Snyder. And then, I don't know about the rest of it, but certainly where it goes up to, 119 from Snyder is a mess too.
So JV
So-
put in 45,000 for just asphalt paving in this estimate. 45,000 for just asphalt paving.
I mean, instead of concrete, instead of using concrete, using asphalt in the area of the sidewalk?
Oh, no, you don't have asphalt in between those 2 curves. No. Keep doing what we have done, except make sure there's expansion joints in it.
I mean, it seems like what we're trying to do is a stopgap, minimal thing.
Yes.
And that the right thing
Oh.
to do is,
Yeah, I'm sorry, 110,000 for concrete sidewalk.
But where?
This was Tin Shed Sports down to the post office.
You don't need that much. We need about 200 linear feet.
Yes,
That
this was 3,760 square feet of 5-foot wide concrete for one.
That's way too much. I mean, I think maybe only 150 feet. I mean, that's way over 700 feet, isn't it? Or maybe 1,000,
No, this is, yeah, I mean, this is 3,760 feet.
3,000.
Yep, 5 feet wide, it's 110,000.
It's like.
Okay, so 30,000 should do the washout areas. That's a stopgap, temporary measure to eliminate these channels 6 foot deep that people are prone to fall in. Nobody walks it. They could see let's just fix them.
I mean, I don't know, you're looking at me, Ron, I don't know what.
Well,
Get out there, Andrew.
Come on, Andrew.
yeah, right. Okay,
Like there-
that's what I want to
A
do.
curb, like when you're trying to walk down a road and there's cars coming, there's a reason that cities put curbs in.
That's what the intention was in that grant that we came to you all for the match for, that we didn't get the money for, was to build in the curb.
Can we help
Here's a-
somehow
yeah.
make a grant happen again? Can we fund, part of this can we move this towards the right solution? In addition to doing the stopgap, can we put some
Let's
budget?
do the stopgap, and I agree, move towards trying to get get it
The
correct.
whole thing done correct.
Okay, so stopgap for 2024, correct? Is that what I'm hearing?
I think so,
Okay.
because we need time and money and grants to do the right thing.
some grants.
And how much money is stopgap?
Wow, it's 150 feet, how many, 5 foot wide, we talked about $13 a foot.
Can you just budget for the match funding? I
How
mean,
much is the match funding
20%
of what grant?
over which version you're picking, but.
The expensive.
Let's go to
one?
the high, we'll go to the high dollar.
Yeah.
That's what
We want to budget money to be the grant matching funds and then try to get a grant. And if we don't get a. grant,
93,000,
Yeah,
But that'd
that's-
get us a $400,000 real solution?
that's a 20% match.
Yeah, I'll take that deal.
Well,
Let's do it. Let's,
Right, but that's town not joint. Last time we brought you this grant, you were like, town needs to come with a match. Town's not coming. We have no money to offer you.
So
So
we're
if
gonna
you
put
all agree to take this
90,000.
on totally by
Let's do it.
yourself.
Let's just put down our $93,000. Go for
I
the
was gonna say, how
400.
about 75?
how about
What about the
put
stopgap?
100?
So does it need to be
Just
150?
Do them separately.
Because us having this in our budget, as a person that used to fund grants, it makes people very easy to fund you if somebody already put in their budget that they're gonna give you the match.
So instead of 95, can we just put 100?
Yeah, that's what I put.
Yes.
For the grant, but also
Yeah.
40 for the stopgap. Cause it's gonna
Okay,
take.
so
a year
140,
for-
okay,
So if you're specifying,
100 for grant,
it's not gonna take 40, but
Okay.
that's all right. Just add that to the rest.
Is that a
it's
separate
40
line
for
item?
stop.
Yeah, 40 for.
Does these sidewalks really cheap? Way less than 40.
Andrew's got it. So this total for this priority that I'll give a fancy name will be 140,000. Okay,
But
and now for the last thing, since Steve brought this up, I want to continue. You have the parking plan listed, which gets into the top 5. Given that there's still a lot that's happening, I don't know how you want to program money to be available. I don't know. So let's open that can of worms now.
I mean, this is number, oh.
It's number
Miranda,
5
You said number 4 twice. So
I know, because those are the tied.
because they're tied.
Tied.
You're a tie.
Yeah,
Okay.
four is twice because they're tied.
I was gonna
Sorry,
say
I really, that wasn't like bad, that wasn't bad numbering on purpose.
It's the so tied. So
This
really,
is,
we're on the subject of a parking budget.
basically, it's not just, it's create a comprehensive plan for parking and traffic control. That's what you have as number 4. It's tied for a number 4 priority, and that's why I'm bringing it up. Because the rest of these are more about time and input from the board. This is the only other one that could potentially be a line item. So that.
Well, that's for creating a plan. The town is working on a plan. I don't want to double fund 2 things. I would rather say, I'd like to.
Is this traffic and safety support? Sorry.
No,
it's
this
creating
is
a comprehensive plan for parking and traffic control. It came up as like our
our
priority.
priority.
Not on the budget, it's a priority.
We
Got it.
agree that we love it, we want it,
But
we just don't
aren't
know.
Funding it.
Or what that really. looks
what it really
like. Right.
entails and how we do spend, you know.
I mean, is this put $10,000 there that we don't spend if we don't do anything? But that we have the ability there to say that if something, and here's a question for you, Kate, because I think you've been working with the downtown Colorado Inc. stuff.
Mhm.
Is there a potential that creating a comprehensive plan for parking and traffic control could be something that dovetails with what they're doing? And where if we have some money, we could make some progress in an area where.
So I don't think that they would necessarily help us come up with that plan.
Okay.
So they would help us decide and help us maybe come up with things that we want, but they wouldn't be the ones that would necessarily do that with us.
However, I think it's been a challenge, long-term challenge for, I think the synergy to get the comprehensive parking strategy, which might include, right, paid parking, enforcement, additional flaggers, like, here's how I see it, is that somehow someone needs help to figure out paid parking, flaggers, traffic control for, peak busy season, let alone events. Like, that's when I hear that, what I think of is, all of those things and how can we get some help in that arena and or help
Mhm.
the businesses and help town by facilitating all of those pieces to be somehow fleshed out.
So is there an amount of money that, kind of like Steve said, you just want to put there so that if you can be called upon over the course of the next year to assist, like Andrew says, that it is available?
Did you say 10,000?
I mean, that was just a.
Yeah,
Yeah, would that mean anything is 10, or does it need to be more? I don't know enough about the.
we don't know.
World to know if that's reasonable,
We know if we need to work with somebody who can help us figure out some things.
Mhm.
We need to work with town, at least we can come to the table and say, yeah, we're ready to help too. Sure.
So people feel okay about 10, just to show that we have some commitment there to.
How about 20?
Yeah, I was gonna say CDOT, and
I don't
a
think
CDOT
we do.
engineer alone probably makes quite a, bills out quite a bit hourly, and them with a lawyer with then some input from town, like that could be a couple of several $1,000 days just trying to figure things out.
Mhm.
20 seems more reasonable, at least.
All right, 20 is what I will put in there. Okay. Any other thoughts on anything before, if anybody's interested in putting together a motion?
Nope.
We approve the budget.
Let me make sure I'm not missing anything online real quick. Don't see anybody's hands up. Is there anybody online that has anything they'd like to say? All right,
Okay. Chair entertains the motion to allocate $20,000 into the budget for
Traffic studies and associated costs.
Let's be paid
Comprehensive.
parking study.
Wait,
so we're not just doing one, we're doing the whole budget is what we need a motion for. It's not necessary, else then we have to go line by line for every item. So we want a motion to approve the 2024 budget and send it to the Board of Trustees, or however I wrote it in the.
this $20,000 is for a comprehensive traffic and parking plan.
Well, for part.
Very good. That's the motion.
Yeah.
Is there a second?
That's the 20,000, but what we're looking for is
Yeah, the
a
overall.
motion.
The whole thing?
The overall budget.
We're not motioning for that, yeah.
Are we
it's-
doing a motion to approve all of the discussed 2024 budget items?
That's what would be the cleanest, and that's what I have.
Totals that Kate has, which is gonna be closer to 700,
Yeah,
750.
because I have to adjust those lines to add them.
Steve, is that a motion?
That was a motion.
I'll second that.
Fantastic.
All right, thank you.
Let's repeat the motion, please.
The
Well-
motion to approve the 2024 budget with all adjustments we discussed tonight that rolls up to somewhere in the neighborhood of $750,000.
And does that,
And make the recommendation.
the 20,000?
Yes,
Yeah.
that includes that. and
That
all the
wraps it all up.
Okay.
Because I added those and added them in the meeting.
What is the
They're-
dollar amount?
I can do it. Really quick.
Just see how bad
No,
I think we're
right.
like 792.
It's actually, it is.
it might be more like 8.
Yeah, it is. It's,
So are we ready for the next one?
Almost.
my
Wow.
Excel is not wanting to put this together, so I'm gonna have to use my, so what we got to through the additions that you added. It's, now it's doing something, it was 811 is what you all had come to.
Okay.
So it was with the additions and where we, for up above, what this changed to was 811, and I lost it. I don't know why it did that. So you were at 811 and now you're adding 160 to that 811, is that's where you end up.
Wow, that's.
So 970.
Mm-hmm. So that's, I'll update that and put it all into the totals in that, but that's where you ended up because you added more money in a few categories, so that's what. took
And a
it
lot
from
of
the
that's
7.
just placeholder, which most likely won't be used.
Well, I mean, like you see in here, in your year-to-date for 2023, you approved 709,000 and you've only spent 155,000 at this point in the year.
I think
We're not
that's
gonna
a
get to that
challenge.
7, so. So there. Okay.
Yeah, I move to approve the
And now,
discussed budget
all
for
right,
2024.
Then a motion to
Second.
approve, second, please.
okay.
Good
Now
stuff.
I will do roll.
Second.
Steve
Steve
Roundtree.
Okay. Okay. Call the roll for the vote.
Ron Mitchell,
Yes.
Steve Roundtree,
Yes.
Scott Papad,
Yes.
Andrew Stewart,
Yes.
Danielle Kraus,
Yes.
Catherine Valen. She votes yes. Thanks, Catherine. Barb Hart,
Yes.
Steve Carell.
Yes.
Great, thank you all.
Okay, item 6.4, I'd like Miranda to speak about her experience with downtown Colorado at CML?
Sure. So at the Colorado Municipal League Conference, myself and Mayor Billy met with Kat Carell, who's from Downtown Colorado Inc., and just talked about, that the DDA is really looking to kind of solidify your functioning as a board, really work on trying to dive into more projects and just recognizing that there was just some need for stability and organization here. And Kat really felt like she could help. You are a member of DCI, so is town, but really never had an opportunity to tie into their resources. And I think one of the best ways to do that is to really have kind of these kickoff meetings where she can do a bit more strategic planning, but take your goals that you just identified and really narrow them in more for a long-term planning instead of just a list. And she has been working with, she works with DDAs all over the state. So she's truly the subject matter expert in terms of this work, and asked if she would provide us a proposal for what it would cost. She did do just that. It's in your packet. The Board of Trustees really strongly feels that the DDA should consider this. It really truly is a great opportunity to tie in and get the advanced level support that DCI provides you. Now, your membership gives us access to newsletters and different trainings, but there's nothing quite like the strategic focused work that the DCI is offering. So,
Okay, so the question is, if we are interested in this and if we pass it, where do we get the money? We just passed the budget.
Well, we started this year, right?
Correct.
That's what it said in the plans, and you have money this year to spend in that.
Okay.
category.
yeah, I mean, obviously the timeline is wrong. It's different in
Yeah.
what was provided to you because this was provided a few months
In
ago.
August.
So if you're interested, we would go back to Kat and ask her to do a revised timeline. But I think it covers over a couple of months, so you could maybe realistically get the bulk of it done this year with maybe a slight carryover into 2024, if you're interested.
And again, this could also come from that project feasibility and professional studies as well.
All right, my observation is this: if the Board of Trustees is encouraging us to do it, I think we should give that heavy weight, because they're gonna give heavy weight looking at our budget. So I've been to a few of downtown Colorado's training sessions. They're really good. You'd be surprised. Some of the proposal is really broad general, so that kind of makes things iffy. But I think this is something we should do. My opinion. Anybody else?
I agree with that this is a great idea. I would like to see them actually add additional time for meetings with property owners. Looking at their schedule of values, they have, the downtown assessment report, half-day site visit, let's meet with property owners and businesses. I'd like to see like one more of that, and I'd like to see, maybe a visioning they've got with the council meeting, just helping to facilitate a little bit more. Maybe we just start here. Maybe I just take it for what it is. I support it. Yeah, I would say that if anything, add more kind of team building and visioning with the town, the BOT, and with local property owners and businesses.
They usually open with a session about your input on ideas where they should go with their training sessions. So I think that'll be built in. That's been one of the.
Unless someone opposes, I'm gonna make a motion to go forward with a downtown Colorado proposal.
Second? Or is there a second?
I think you just.
I thought you
No.
just seconded.
I did, okay, I say.
You seconded it?
All
Okay.
right, any further discussion after the motion and second? Okay, let's call for a vote.
Ron Mitchell,
Yes?
Steve Roundtree,
Yes.
Scott Pappett,
Yes.
Andrew Dewar,
Yes.
Danielle Kraus,
Yes.
Catherine Valley. I'll give you a second. Barb Hart,
Yes,
Catherine Valley votes yes. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Barb. Steve Crow.
I'll abstain.
Okay.
I didn't have a chance to read this, I'm sorry.
Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. Motion passes. And I do want to go back, I fixed the issue I was having with the Excel. So your original column total, after we updated a few things and tweaked, was 841,490. So then with the additional 160, your total CIP project budget will be 1,001,490. Just so that you have that.
Okay, that's passed. Next item, 6.5, utilization line of credit. We've discussed this. We didn't have a special meeting on it. It's recommended that we do it. Chair moves that we initiate use of the line of credit for major items and capital items. Any second, and then we'll have discussion.
You want to discuss it first? No?
Okay, we can discuss it first. Withdraw the motion.
I kind of spoke to this early on at the beginning, is provided that these are for substantive major capital expenses that we're doing. Having spoke to and been in on the call with the banker as well as the other professional there. One, it was clear that if we ever find anything that's a sensible project that is, there's political will and BOT support and public support, I don't think we'll have any trouble funding it. That being said, to be able to further relationships with, the bankers, plural, the only way, I think, or one of the ways, is to really use large capital expenditures, provided that they're paid back almost immediately, within a matter of 24 to 48 hours. And that then the interest really is in line with whatever we're paying the town for some of the transaction fees. So my understanding and support for this is predicated on it being major costs that are approved and that they're paid back within a matter of hours, and that the interest paid on that is in line with the $50 transaction fees that we pay the town for a similar transaction. That's my statement on that.
Anybody else?
So this would be done instead of getting funding from the town.
Yes.
When you look at the budget that we have right now, give me a couple of examples. What would you use this for?
We put up trash containers. Spend $20,000 on a beautification project in the downtown area. You
Paving.
decide to buy 20 picnic tables to put along the river walk. You decide to widen it. Those are all high ticket items.
Like
Almost everything we put in the budget.
Biggest one in the budget is the wayfinding.
Wait,
Wayfinding signs. That'd be a prime example of like large infrastructure purchase.
Okay.
That we can say like, it's not like 10 checks that are gonna go through in the month. It's like, boom, here's the two big invoices for wayfinding potentially.
So I've got two things that I should voice, and one of them is I want to caution this team. We have to be really diligent that we do pay this thing and then
Mhm.
like immediately. Right, so we
Write
don't,
the
want-
checks at once is what you do.
okay? The other
but
thing
you also
is,
have to think about the fact that now all of our banking is in Boulder. And so like, yes, I'm gonna have to do this right away, but there is gonna be a process to this now, because we're doing two banks and they're both in Boulder, so I'm gonna have to go down to Boulder.
They're a block away from each other.
And then, yeah, no, it's not that big of a deal, but it is big, because it's not the same as when I could just go to town and go to Citywide and it was all done right up here. It's a bigger process, and that's why it should be only for that larger ticket amounts, because most people won't do anything for under 50 because of the admin costs. There's a real time and energy to this stuff too.
Okay. Any further discussion?
yeah, I did have a second point. The other one is, we have to be mindful that if we start borrowing money, we cannot borrow money that we can't pay back. Just because we have it accessible to us, doesn't mean that we can start running up debts that we don't have the cash flow to pay down.
No, I
There's
just
a real risk.
spoken that this would have been for items that would have been in the approved budget. That if an item comes up it's because we're being billed for something that is in the budget that's been approved.
Right.
That's my vision.
That's great, and I think that the record
That's-
should show that that is our intention.
That is the intention.
Okay, so you want to quantify that? And
I would say that I would move that the NDDA begins using the line of credit predicated only on major capital expenses that have been established within the budget, that are within budget items, paid back within less than, 48 hours, and don't grossly exceed the $50 transaction fee and interest costs. Is that
second,
concise enough?
I just think
any
that-
further discussion?
Yeah, a little further discussion. I think it would be helpful
Withdraw the
to
motion.
put a number to major costs. You know, what's a major expense? Is it over 10,000? Is it 8,000?
I would say it would be over 10,000.
Then that at least goes in line with like when we do second signatures, so that keeps us
Yeah, what
in
is
our
the
policy.
threshold there? Is it
10
10,000?
So like 10,001, I need another signature for, so that would be anything over 10.
I would like something like that, just a monetary thing to guide us.
Probably be normally the case.
So I'll
Yeah.
Add that to the,
make DDA line predicated major capital in budget. Within budget item paid, I do it quick, I go back, paid back within less than 48 hours, not to exceed $50 in interest costs.
It would be right after you wrote major capital exceeding $10,000,
Exceeding 10, that's a good spot,
requiring 2 signatures.
requiring 2 signatures, okay.
And, I mean, without exception, none of this is to be held in debt for more than 48 hours, correct?
yeah,
All right, so that was the motion put forward by Andrew. Ron, do you want to second that again, since it was changed,
Yeah.
or does somebody else want to second it?
I'll second.
Okay, you are seconding. Are we ready for a vote?
We are. All those in favor? Read the, call the roll, please.
Okay, Ron Mitchell,
Yes?
Steve Roundtree,
Yes.
Scott Papich,
No, I'm against, because I have it on authority from separate banking professionals that no taxing authority needs to be doing this.
Andrew Dewar,
Yes.
Daniel Kraus,
Yes.
Barb Hart,
No,
and then Catherine Vallon, and you sent me it. And she votes no as well. Steve Pro,
Yes.
the motion passes.
Okay, on to informational items, chair report. It isn't in the packet, but I'll give a very brief report. I have been circulating myself throughout the business community, talking to the merchants and trying to get projects and ideas from them. Some of the things that they're very interested in are already in our budget. There's some really interesting things going on in terms of the trash. Busey Brews, this trash can is shared with Crosscut. Also, Ross at the deli uses Busey Brews. So there's 3 trash cans down at the end. They're on public property. They're concerned about that. I don't know if they have permission from the town to have them there or not, but it certainly doesn't hurt anything because it isn't used very much. So 2 of the businesses have their trash cans on private property. That's the Rustic Moose and the co-op. I met with the co-op at their board meeting last night and encouraged them to get going and thinking about how they want to solve that problem, because it's not going to be continued for very much longer that they can use the private property. Rustic Moose is interested in some sort of project that would, help clean up. So that ties in with what we've already put in our budget somewhat in a couple of categories. They are interested in, something that has been tossed around a little bit. And that's establishing an entertainment district. Who knows, that might tie in with the concert series, I don't know. But nevertheless, my objective was to try and, increase the awareness that the DDA is out there to serve them and to get elicit ideas from them and follow through. So I wanted you all to know that. One thing I did want to, do is with the, coming leaf peeper season, I want to make a proposal, and I would like to run those 5 weekends and put, and make a trial project. I want to talk to town about this too, haven't yet, but use 2 yield signs at Rental Way and at Lakeview Heights to where the oncoming traffic yields to side road traffic exiting and entering, so that there's actually a reduction in the level of frustration of our citizens who really suffer because of the lack of courtesy from the 119 drivers who will just go past the shopping center 20, 30, 50 cars before somebody can make a left turn out of the shopping center. And if you have a yield sign there, I want to try it, see if it works for those weekends, to get back to you. And maybe we could get CDOT to make it a permanent thing. They don't care if you do it. And when we have flaggers, but if it were done permanently, they certainly want to have input. So, and of course the town too. So that's a project that I want to propose and I would like to personally be in charge of. Not much more for me to report, other than I think we're doing very well. I'm pleased we got our budget passed and on to the treasurer.
Yeah, apologies for not having a report in there. I'm still working on getting access to QuickBooks. I figured out I can't really load it on my current computer. So I'm getting an end of life laptop from work to donate to the DDA that I can use as a dedicated QuickBooks machine. And then I will work with Rita when she's back, get everything sorted out there. So then I think the other thing is it seems like the signature cards are still kind of in limbo, and hopefully we can get that sorted out this month. I'm happy to complete the form when it's ready to go.
I'll print the minutes tomorrow morning and bring them to town hall. So everybody can go and sign everything tomorrow, and then if you can't take it from town hall tomorrow, just tell me and I'll take it off the desk at town hall, and then I'll have it together and we can do that.
And I can talk to Karina about making sure that the document is then locked up after each signature.
Yeah, I mean, it's where it was sitting when I walked in, and it made me just think if that's where it was gonna sit when I walked out, I wasn't gonna put
Totally.
certain.
Yeah.
So,
Okay,
Well, the rest of informational items are all in your packet, so we can go through them right now, but it's 9 o'clock. I don't have anything to add to my report or that, so we can either go through more or we can, whatever you
This
want.
last thing that I'd like to bring up was the issue that was brought up to Nederland Public Art, just so that we all have a chance to talk about it in person, which is an artist sent a complaint that I think, has everyone seen the email? Is there anyone who has not seen the email?
I tried to open it and I couldn't read it.
So, basically,
Here's the complaint, yeah.
it was, one of the mural artists who had put submitted as to be a runner-up. His email says, his name is David Sockrider. He says, I was a runner-up who submitted a mural proposal for this. This is the mural on the side of the co-op. I agreed to the terms listed by NDDA, size 41 feet by 15 feet space, a $1 million liability insurance for the artist/team for the duration the contract is required, Within 10 days of contract signing, the artist will provide the NDDA executive director a certificate of insurance and a copy of the insurance policy and any endorsement thereto. Then he lists the deadline, RFQ deadline, April 1st, 2023, project budget, see breakdown below, references the NDDA's proposal, and says, it looks like the committee chose the winner, then modified the contract June 2nd to have a smaller size and higher pay per square foot. Amendments to old contract, increase square footage pay form $15 a square foot to 20, reduce size of mural from 615 square foot to 192 square foot. And then does a space there. I get it. Choose a winner, then accommodate their inability to follow the proposal. This was a very untrustworthy process for the artists who took the time to submit a proposal that followed the rules. I'm not sure how any future artist could trust this committee to adhere to the publicly proposed requirements for any future projects. I question the legality of the modification of a public proposal to accommodate the chosen winner. So there's a couple of things that this brings up. One is that if there are complaints, whether they're valid or not valid, depending on, the point of view in this, is that I think we should have a mechanism in place so that if they go to, Kate, this came to you?
No, it came a lot of different ways.
Okay.
This is only one. There are several emails and lots of Facebook messaging. There's a lot more to this. and
Right,
that's-
right. So in any case, like, there should almost, I think what would be great is that if this is able to, if there are complaints or feedback, I know we have like the anonymous, board, contact a board member and then something will go, but like all of the, I think anyone who's serving on this board should get the information immediately. Like we need to put a system in place where everyone can at least see it. And then, not that everyone needs to act on it. This is just my opinion. And also like, I don't, in my opinion, believe that actually there was a really big variance with the contract or moving the goalposts. It was this person's opinion. I think the Public Art Committee followed the rules, and yet I think they also could use support and not necessarily be dealing with contracts themselves. So I think going in the future, any contracts that anyone is engaging in with the DDA should also probably have dual signatories and be reviewed, not just by, the burden shouldn't fall on Nederland Public Art to create and deal with a contract. We should be there to support them. We should also be there to support them if there's grief, because I know that, several of the members of Public Art went through a lot of grief and consternation that someone was, felt slighted. But I feel like we should have mechanisms in place, one, to like look at that, address it quickly, support people, and also kind of help eliminate or mitigate this in the future by really making sure that there's good contract support when any entity engages the DDA on a contractual level. So that's all I wanted to share as far as other business on that.
So I'm gonna address some of the things in there. You all approved the RFP and the contract in your business meeting. That's the information to say he tracked the meeting, which is great. Like, that's the kind of complaints you want where they come when they have their facts. So there are tweaks every year that we need to make to the RFP and the contract, like we've talked about, and Ron and I talked about it for this RFQ. This process for responding to it was actually really delayed because there were a lot of people and it didn't actually come to the ED. If this complaint had come through, like most of them do, you see them through the main portal, then it would have been that way. When this came through so many different ways, and actually it even went to Barb and Karina from our passports in the first state. So it's been several weeks that we've been dealing with this. So if that had been the way, then you would see it. You're always aware when there is a complaint, especially at this level. I go to the chair like I did with Barb. This is just different because of the way it came mostly through Facebook and private emails to individuals. So next year, when we talk about public art, we can talk about that differently. When I met with Danielle after this, I discussed that there really does need to be an hour of my time each month for public art because of the extent of their projects and the support they need. Like Andrew said, they need to be focused on the public art piece, and we can be focused on the contracting piece and making sure that they have their supports. And so that was my thought, in saying that to Danielle, and Danielle can certainly jump in about this too, as well, because she reached out to Ron, but so do know that there was a lot of conversations. It just didn't come through the way that I think we would all prefer that complaints are registered for the board.
Well, I have a comment.
Okay.
I think anybody who has a complaint about what we do as a justifiable, request could have us consider it. On the other hand, if they go to the internet and try and condemn somebody through social media, they lose a lot of credibility in that regard. And I think that's what was done here. And I think as the chair, I'm going to recommend that we not consider complaints when they've been aired on the internet to embarrass or criticize some of our members who worked as volunteers to do a public service. So if we establish a policy, this is something I want to see encompassed in that policy. If people have a complaint, they come to us, they don't go to the internet, Facebook, and level their charges without someone having a legitimate ability to respond. I really find that offensive. And I bring it up here now because Andrew brought it up as a subject.
We shouldn't have to go defend ourselves on.
On
social
Facebook,
media.
I don't engage in that. I don't.
That's right.
I
And I
watch it
think
because I.
when someone does that before they come to us, they nullify their right to come before us.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I think, tonight, I think the important thing is, I know, to show some support for Danielle. I know each of those projects, the amount of, effort that goes into the planning and the
Exactly.
execution of having art, put in Nederland, it's not easy, and it's not always possible to say at the start exactly what's going to happen to actually make it work. And I think, I had some limited interaction on the mural that's on the co-op. And just from a change of venue to the day that they were putting it up, they were making adjustments to exactly how they were gonna do it. And I think it's a lot of people who are trying to make things happen, for the right reason. And I think Danielle in particular puts in a lot of time and effort. So I want to thank her for that because I think she does a really great job. And I think in the end, that part of what the DDA is doing has been really positive when you look at the multiple murals that are up in town, and just the change in the feel of town from that thing. So I guess I'd like to just say thank you to Danielle.
Yeah.
Here, here.
And I want to say something, the dinosaur, Julia Williams, who did our mural, she just did the Coors mural. She's the one that did that cool Coors mural that they just commissioned. So I thought that was pretty cool.
On the
that
Tivoli
we-
building?
Yeah, she did the artists, the musicians, but she just was the artist that successfully wanted to put up the big new mural at Coors.
I would like to say too, that, Kate invited the complaining person to come to this meeting and present his case. He isn't here, so, that tells me that, he has, lost his rights to come again.
Is he requesting anything? Or he just
No,
wants to?
he's just letting his feelings be known. And so I respond, so that's why I'm just showing, I was just trying to be transparent about it because it has been coming through all sorts of different ways. Not every complaint would be handled like this, but it is because it touched a lot of different ways. And I just wanted to make sure everybody saw that.
And I brought it up only one to support Danielle, make sure we acknowledge it. Make sure we discuss briefly a mechanism of complaints, and I think most importantly, in addition to supporting Danielle, contracts like DDA signing contracts with other parties that we either should allocate more money and time for legal and for review so that when we are giving them to people, there's no question and doubt that, you know, people have the full support of the DDA and the, you know, legal. Yeah.
Danielle has her hand raised.
Oh, I want to say one thing for, just to remind, for public art, the agreements that we use, you paid a consultant, because it was right before I started, you paid for a consultant that worked for the city of Boulder that did their public art program. So basically, what we paid for was those documents and that vetting, and like we said, we need to update it every year, so Andrew's point is 100% taken, but I wanted to let you know for public art in particular, those agreements come from a different thing. Now, other things are another thing, but just to bring that up since we were talking about it. Thank you, Andrew.
What was this artist's name again?
Steve Songwriter. It's all in there's more information on them. If you couldn't open the attachment, there is a scan of it in there too.
I couldn't see anything. It was.
Okay, folks, we're at
Danielle
9:15.
wanted us off.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Did Danielle want to make a comment?
Guys, you make me miss being there in person. I am completely humbled by your support and really appreciate being a part of this board. Nederland Public Art has been incredible for me. I take it on as a business because I feel so passionate about it. We do have a new committee member, Mike Foster, who is very involved with our town, also cares about it. He's who is doing the art on the covered bridge restoration project. He has extensive knowledge and experience with contracts. And Kate and I talked about having more support with her in helping us move forward and make sure that things are transparent and as legitimate as possible. And I just want to say thank you again for each of you that I've talked to and the entire board for the continued support and helping me feel like a significant part of our town through artwork. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for all you did.
Okay, thank you, Danielle.
And Ron,
All right.
one last thing, Ron, I know we want to quit, but I just wanted to make sure that, you know, while this person brought these complaints in varied ways and not what we consider the normal way to do it, have we addressed all of his concerns?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. So that's why it was more hard that I was getting it through different ways and then seeing all these screenshots. And so that's why I wanted you to see my final response. My, what I thought Carrie from the Nederland Public Art Committee, I thought she kind of gave a nice little synopsis, but there's a lot of different things that went back and forth. But she gave some good information, so that's why I just wanted to make sure that you all had that information. Like Andrew said, you should have that information.
Okay, great, thanks.
Move to adjourn.
Motion.
Okay, next item, staff reports.
Do you want to go through? some?
Nope, mine, although
She wants to go home.
I only gave you the public works one, so sorry about that. If you want to see my report, go to the board of trustees packet. Or there'll be a new one coming out next week.
All right, I would like to
I noticed
suggest,
that I saw other information there and I was like, well, she wants that. in
I
there.
don't know what I did there.
All right, I think.
I run through these quickly. Danielle, would you like to give anything on beautification?
Danielle's not in beautification. The beautification, I handle that and all the information's in the report.
Okay. All right, performance space.
No, I think we're in summer concert series mode.
Is that it?
That's basically what it says.
All right, we're sort of updated on public art forever walk. I think we
I'll
did
stop
that.
asking
Most
questions.
Barb has something she wants to add. Barb,
Fire's gone.
Barb already is off. She had to drop off.
okay. All right, the river walks then. Wayfinding, we've done that
Yeah.
pretty adequately.
Yeah.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Abstain.
Good night.
Nice.
If you sit for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Always. No, this is my.
I'm done.
Yeah.
But I'll-
I've never